way. Uh,
Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Just representing for the Gray Pill Podcast. I don't know why the last part of that was low. I think I just re-edited the whole video and get it out the way. So appreciate everybody for coming on through. If you are new, definitely hit the subscribe button. It helps out a lot. Hit the like button. Make sure the bell notification is on all, because what it does is it helps everybody else out for all the updates and keep you posted. So again, if you have a favorite for a content creator like Ruby from I'll Be That News, and YouTube will unsubscribe you and all that good stuff. You can't find her. It's not because Ruby said we don't like you and we banned you. It's because YouTube do little shenanigans from time to time. So just to give a little introduction, appreciate you, Don TZ. Appreciate you, Don TZ. I'm getting that memory muscle going. So I appreciate you for coming on through. We have Ruby from I'll Be That News. You definitely check out on I'll Be That News all the time. And my homeboy Deuce is back. Finally. So we're gonna have that conversation. So I left some emails and DMs from other people for the link and the conversation. So they're more to welcome to join in for the conversation. So appreciate you. Tanti's like, there you go. You still got to drop that other E. YouTube will allow you to edit it, sir. Just all you have to do is just put one more E in there. You will be so good, I promise you. And just because of me, because I'm kind of picky, so just ignore me on this one. But it's an option. You can make that D, because you the alpha male in this chat, right? You the alpha male. Put that lowercase D and make it a capital D. Flex on them. Flex on them. Capital D, extra E, boom. If he do it, I'd be so proud of him. All right, so he's like, yeah.
Good luck, he ain't gonna do it. I've been saying the same thing for years. He's not doing it.
If he do it, I'm just gonna make a whole theory like, see, men do listen to men.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Other men listen to other men. Mm-hmm. All right, so let me share this out real quick, because it was a guy, before we get to the main topic, it was a guy. I think his name was McQueen or something like that. He was on SOS Valuetainment for the conversation. And hello, Mary Bell. I appreciate you for coming through. Thank you. God bless. So with a conversation about something, I feel like we could dive in on real quick, get warmed up, and we get straight to the topic of paternity frauds. So Okay, let me blow this up real quick. Make sure this is blown up. Okay.
Are all women prostitutes?
No.
Why?
Because I'm not a prostitute.
No, but hear me out though.
It depends where you're from.
Let's say I get your number right now, right? And then I take you on a nice lavish date, right?
Okay.
That costs money, right?
Okay, we're gonna go half and half. No, I'm not gonna make you pay for
No,
it.
hear me out. Listen to me out. If I don't pay, it's unattractive. Let's be real.
Not really. Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you. With that being said, if I spent money to go put inside my gas tank to come pick you up, spent money to go on the date, spent money to get you back to where, to either your house or my house, wherever, and then eventually we bust down, that means I had to pay for you, right?
Oh shit!
So therefore, y'all are.
I could drop dead right now. I literally only have.
Don't do that, baby. I need you. Let me get your number because I do think you're very beautiful. What's your name?
Shalani.
Are all women?
All right, so that is the question. So is all women prostitutes? Because I ask you out, we go on the dates. I have to pay for put gas in my car just to get to you. I get there, buying the flowers, I pay for the meal, I have to still burn my gas and come there. It's a lot of work. So we'll let Deuce go from there. It's like, is you still paying? Some men say you pay. Some men will just go ahead and like, yo, I'll give you $20 just to smash because my goal was to smash you.
Yo, why you make me go first for that one?
You haven't been here a long
That's a
time,
crazy
so like, gotta get thrown in the fire.
My goodness. Nah, I think it is depending on the woman, right? Like what if she's pretty much saying like, hey, there's a dollar amount you got to get to. You got to spend this, take me on trips, this, that, and the third. I think that's crossing the line into prostitution. But just for the upkeep of going on a date, like you're supposed to get gas anyway. You know what I'm saying? And if you offer somebody out on a date and take them out, like I don't consider it prostitution. But if it's a requirement, right? If you're saying it's a requirement, you have to do this, you have to do this. And you equate if the woman is equating her love or her, the physical aspect of it with how much money you spend, then I think it's prostitution. But just going on a date, no.
Okay, fair enough. Or what you think? Is it prostitution?
No, prostitutes are prostitutes. I don't know where this confusion comes in for men thinking that if they pay for a date, then they're getting some from the woman. Or if they pay for then no, that's not what dating is about, right? When you ask someone out on a date, it's because you like them, right? You're like, oh, I think this person's attractive. They seem cool. I might want to get to know them. Maybe they'll get to know me. Maybe we could take this thing to something further, right? That is not at all the same thing as saying, I want some sex, so I'm going to give you this to get sex in return, okay? Now, if sex happens, right, or some type of intimacy happens between two people who are getting to know each other and like each other, and there's a spark, you didn't pay for the sex, or you didn't pay for the spark. You didn't pay for that intimacy to happen. If it happens, yay you, lucky you. But what you're really paying for is like, A, you're paying for your gas because you have a car like a grown-up. And if not, then you're paying for transportation, Uber, whatever it is, right? Because you're trying to get from A to B. That's not so you can get sex. That's what you do in general, right? Unless you never leave your house because you're like an agoraphobe or something. Otherwise, you pay to get places. Or you're paying for food because you've decided a nice place to get to know someone or to impress her or whatever would be this restaurant, would be this, would be that, right? So you're not paying for sex. You're paying for this experience, okay? And I don't mean her. I mean the experience, whatever you guys are choosing to do, whether it's I'm taking her to the movies, I'm taking her to dinner, I'm taking her to whatever. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for that experience over there. You're paying for the transportation. You're paying for all this stuff. That has nothing to do with you paying for sex. Okay. As a woman who has been taken out on dates by people, right? I can guarantee you that I've been taken on a lot of dates and I've slept with none of those people on the first date or even second or even the third date. Because that's not why we're dating. Now there are lots of people who are for sale. They are prostitutes, right? But just the process of dating or taking a woman out you're not buying sex. Like that is literally what it is. It's an exchange of money or goods for a particular service. And that is not what dating is unless you're that type of chick. And if you're that type of chick, do you, cool. But I'm just saying that that's not what dating is.
So, because I know this one homeboy a year ago, he felt like, he's paying, since you said he's paying for experience, he felt like, yo, I might as well just go ahead and just like offer her if his amount was $200 on a date, he might as well just offer her the date because the outcome for him was like just sex. So he might as well like, look, I'll just give you $200 so we could just smash, and then you could take the $200 and create your own experience too. Like, I don't know if y'all guys heard stuff like that.
Well, then she's a prostitute. Like
there was a basketball player that just said that when you said, I don't take women on dates. I'd rather just pay for it. Right. So that's where that came from. When you said earlier, hey, I don't know where this came from, this confusion. So where the confusion came from is that some dudes was just like, I don't want to date. I don't want to court. I don't want to do nothing. Why go on 3 dates spending $200-$300 per date when I could just pay that money up front and I'm not wasting my time?
Yeah.
That's where that confusion came from. But there are some women out there that are like transactional with it. Like they're like, well, are you gonna pay a bill? Are you gonna like, saying like that's when you be getting like, hold up, this is borderline, girl. Like what?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Dave, what's going on?
Get her time unless you pay the bill. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
What's up, y'all?
What's going on? Hey, did you hear? I don't know if you saw the video earlier about what is a prostitute. Did you see that?
Oh no, I didn't see that video. I don't remember that video.
Hold on, this is a guy on SOS Valuetainment, where he was doing like a street performance outside, asking people questions. You know how those people go. So let me share this real quick.
Okay.
Because he was like, hey, it's all women prostitutes. So this for everybody coming in. Hey, appreciate you, man. Tomorrow, I think you want to chime in for this conversation because it's going to be kind of pretty interesting. So we get warmed up with this one. So a guy was running around asking women, is dating, does that make you a prostitute? Yeah. So here it goes.
Okay.
Are all women prostitutes?
No.
Why?
Oh,
I'm not a
shit.
Hear me out though. Let's say I get your number right now, right? And then I take you on a nice lavish date, right?
Okay.
That costs money, right?
Okay, we're gonna go have to have. No, I'm not gonna make you pay for
No,
it.
hear me out. Listen to me out. If I don't pay, it's unattractive. Let's be real.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you. With that being said, if I spent money to go put inside my gas tank to come pick you up, spent money to go on the date, spent money to get you back to where, so either your house or my house, wherever, and then eventually we bust down, that means I had to pay for you, right?
Oh shit!
So therefore, y'all are.
I could drop dead right now. I literally only have.
Don't do that, baby. I need you. Let me get your number because I do think you're very beautiful. What's your name?
Shalani.
There we go. So do you believe
Queen,
in?
dude.
Yeah. Do you believe anything he's saying?
Nah. Come on, we older than that. Like you're not paying for that.
Hey, but he said, hey, that's like the form of prostitution. If I'm paying for the gas,
half of the stuff he had to do anyway. Didn't he have to pay? Didn't he have to put money in gas in the car just to get around? Didn't he have to eat at some point? Didn't all the stuff he would have to do even if he wasn't with her? I think the dudes are dating wrong. Dudes are dating wrong. This is the way I've been. When I was young and I was dating and I was taught to date. Go to places and create experiences that you have done yourself and just say, your company would enhance the experience. That's the only thing you got to do. And if it costs you another, if you would have went, because there's some places I would have went and I would have spent like $100 because they like there's one place I used to love their Hawaiian ribeye. It was the best. So I would try to eat it as much as possible. And then I'd be like, if it was somebody I wanted to date, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to Houston's to get the Hawaiian ribeye. I get as much as I can, it'd be your company would just make the situation even better, something like that. And then I would just, then what, if she gets a high ribeye, then it's another $50 or whatever like that. But it's just like, you're paying for, you're showing appreciation. You're showing that you value their company. That's it.
Fair enough.
Like to me, you're paying for an experience, but the experience is not her. She's coming along with you on that experience, but you're paying for gas because, again, or transportation because you need to get there. You're paying for food because people eat, right? The whole point is you're paying for all of that experience. And then during that experience, if you're doing it right, you're trying to get to know this other person to see if you like them and you want to take things further with them. if you're paying, and this is a sad truth that a lot of people are being told that they can literally, I guess, lead with their wallets, and that's like a good thing. So if that's why you're taking women out, you take them to these places where you're spending thousands of dollars on a gold covered steak or whatever, and your whole goal is to try to get some, like you're not dating with any other type of intention, then you should just pay for it. Like you should just, it will be a lot cheaper and easier. Go pay someone $200 for the, around the world experience and whatever. She'll probably be hotter than any girl that you can hook for a date. And at the end of the day, you have to spend a lot less time and energy, and you're going to have to do a lot less, right, overall. So it's like, if that's your only goal is to get some, why are you dating? Like, I don't even understand why you would bother with the whole point of date. Like, that's not the point of dating.
I'm with Dame's experience, because like what Dame just the example Dame gave, it's like, okay, it kind of, I'm going for me, but I'm bringing along. But at the same time, as we're conversating, I can build up on my social skills a little bit, my awareness. She might give me some perspective about me. I don't know, like I said, just enjoy the time. And then it doesn't take much time. Like usually a general day is like 2 hours the least, depending on the time, and then, hey, now again, if you're not leading that way, but you might get lucky, she might say, hey, you know what? You're not thinking about sex. You're not thinking about anything else. You know what? You want to come in for some coffee? Sure. Why not?
The Luke Cage coffee.
yeah. Shout out to Cage.
I mean, seriously, go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
I'll say it real quick. So what it is courting, right? The art of courting. People stopped courting people, right? Like this used to be an art. This used to be like a pastime, right? But now people just want to get to the end result. See, before the end result of courting was marriage, right? When you courted a girl, that was you saying, hey, I want to be with you for the rest of my life. Then when dating culture came about, where now, because you only used to court one, you might court like one or two people, right? Now people are dating a plethora of people at the same time, several people at the same time, right? With no intention on getting to an end result with either of them. It's just like, oh, I'm just having fun until I find the right one, right? But really, not even with that intention. So that's the thing. Now we live in a society where it's like delayed, like we don't believe in delayed gratification. We just want it's transactional. We just want the best outcome, right, that we want. So it's just like if men are chasing sex, that they want to get to it as quick as possible without waiting for it. If women are chasing, acquisition of resources, she's not going to wait for it. You know what I'm saying? So everybody's like, hey, let's just cut all the BS. Boom, boom, boom. I want the money. You want the P. Here we go. It's transactional, right? So that's I kind of get where it's going, because we, as a capitalist, we have learned to monetize everything, and to the point where dating has now become monetized, and we don't court anymore.
Yeah, it's funny because like I be on these spaces and I hear cats talking about like dating. They be like, if I spend X amount of dollars, I got to get some. If I got to get some, and just like dudes, like I couldn't understand like how young cats date nowadays, because I guess I'm too old school with it, because it's like they seem so pressed to have sex at the end of a date. That's just so pressed. And I mean, it's like I the way I dated back when I was single, I guess is maybe not isn't the would work today, but it was like, it's like I never went on a date pressed for sex. It was like there was somebody in the periphery that had it. I was kicking. There was maybe a friends with benefit situation that we just knew what it was. So I was getting what I needed, on that, so I could be like, there's an old saying, don't go to the grocery store on an empty stomach. So, and that's what I'm saying. It was like, that's kind of how I kind of rocked. It was just like, you could find somebody to be kicking it with. And if, you have a great date with that person and ends up going that route, then that's the way it goes. But if it doesn't, then you could, set something up for after, or set something up for the next day with the person who you kicking it with. It's like, if you not just, I don't know, that's just kind of how I rocked when I was out there in the world dating. It was like, there was people who knew what it was. There was friends with benefits where I wasn't pressed. So if I went, I could just focus on the experience as opposed to, okay, what is my outcome? What am I going to get at the end of the day? And trying to rush through the day and not even know the person because I'm trying to rush through it, trying to get to the end, So I don't know. It's weird.
Do you remember the movie? Do you remember that movie? There's Something About Mary, because If you
Yeah.
don't have a, friend of that sort, right? What dudes used to do, it was like common knowledge. This is what you do before a date. So that way you don't act pressed and you're not functioning based on this premise of you're trying to get some so desperately, is, you do a little, yank session right before the date. Hopefully you don't lose it and it ends up in your hair or something. And but that was the point of that. It's like some of these movies, they're funny, but they're trying to give you a piece of wisdom also. Like,
Yeah.
dude, you don't want to come off desperate because it gives women the ick and then they want nothing to do with you. So
Yeah.
you want to come off feeling confident and like, yeah, I don't need any of that. And if you don't have someone else to give it to you, fine, give it to yourself. But like, why are you going there pressed for it? It's crazy.
Yo, speaking of movies, Bronze, I got your email, man. I respond before the night over with or early in the morning. One movie that pretty much was like a life lesson for me was the Loverboy movie. Like, he was so pressed about. You have to see that movie. It's one of the main characters.
Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah, he's the main character from ER.
Yeah. I see.
Yeah. I knew him everywhere since then. But the message for me, the message of that movie was he was so pressed about just getting the hottest chick, getting a box, and then a grown woman had to teach him the art of what Deuce is saying, like the art of dating, seduction, all that stuff. And he realized every woman he dated wasn't all about just getting a box. They just wanted to be held. One just wanted to talk to. And then he learned like each different woman has something different about them. It wasn't always the same thing that he thought. And at the end of the movie, he just became more confident, more aware. And I was like, yo, this is a good movie. So I learned a lot from that movie coming up as a kid. But yeah, there's some messages in a lot of movies.
Yeah, man. Like, my favorite movie coming up about dating was Booty Call with Jamie Foxx.
Really?
Great movie.
What was it? Was it the dental dam?
I learned a lot from that movie, man.
What you learned to get it in before the night go out, not to make so many mistakes. Bring your condom,
man. It was so much game in that movie, man. About condoms and protection and.
Wow,
it to me mistakes in that movie for me.
Man.
I was like, what is he doing? The stuff that's going on in that movie, when I saw, I was like, even I know that. Except for when she threw the dinner dam, when she educated him in the dinner, I was like, oh, that's the only thing that stopped me.
Jesus
Christ.
But yeah, man.
I couldn't y'all thinking all these dating movies. I'm like, why the only movie that come to my mind is Booty Call?
That was a funny movie.
It was.
Funny movie. I loved it. But yeah.
All right,
I guess mine would have to be like a matinee. It'd be a couple of different movies that cover different stages of my life. You know?
Yeah, even Brownsburg, like, yo, Booty Call taught him a lot. All right. It just taught me what not to do when these people just be silly on whatever they thought process was. And they was grown.
It really taught you how to get two different women, right? Because you had like the little good girl, and then you had the one that was ready to freak off. You know what I'm saying? It was just like two different.
I didn't learn nothing from that movie except for they made so many mistakes. It was crazy. And then it was a lot of stereotypes that actually happen in real life. Like, you go to the corner store, there's like either the Indian or the Asian store. You saw the difference of that. Like, it was just stuff I already seen, and they just made it to a whole funny thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but everything else, like, yo, dinner damn. That's the only thing I got educated on. I was like, oh, let me look into this.
I was just thinking Sprung. Whoever are you? Just Jay. I was just thinking Sprung. That's funny.
Sprung was a good one.
Yeah, but I digress.
I'm looking at that. All right. So next question is for the second topic before we get to that main event. So it was something I was saying before. Matter of fact, it was actually Wally. I wish he was here because he broke something down and it kind of like blew my mind. So maybe I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit. But since the world we're living in today, and we have a lot of women that says, we're independent. We do a lot for ourselves. We make our own money. We own our houses. We own land. We're entrepreneurs. All that good stuff. So why can't I have Wally actually ask the question the way he phrased it, but I'm gonna ask the way I'm gonna ask it. Why is there a problem with women proposing to men versus men proposing to women? And men, do we think that is like kind of like beta of men to accept the proposal of women? I see Ruby making her face, so we're gonna leave her last. So if a boss babe come and propose to us, give us the the 4K diamond ring how we want it custom, is that a problem with a lot of men? Because women today is a little bit on the the boss babe side, right? They always they offer us lunch, they pay for our lunch, they might treat us to a car, some clothes. So why can't we accept the ring if they say, hey, babe, I want to get married in 2 years? Like, well, Hold on. Fresh and Fit says it. The men has the key or the golden gate to marriage, and women has the gate, the window to sex.
Women control access to sex. Men control access to marriage.
Okay, cool. So now with that being said, so now let's flip it. So if that woman is the boss babe, and now she's like, yo, I want to get married. So, and she proposed to the guy, is that problematic for the guy? Like, does that make him look weak? Like, how do we see that? Because I see some videos, we've seen videos in the media where men get proposed to the women, and the women be getting on bended knee like, hey, will you marry me? And they're like, okay, cool. So what do we think of that? We'll go with Dane. What do we think about that, Dane?
Yeah, dude. Anytime I see those videos, like I see the little clips of a woman posing, for some reason the dude never says no. This says yes. He always walks off, because I think if a woman proposing to a man, she is setting herself up for possibly setting herself up for disappointment. Because a man will propose when he is ready and it is his mind to propose. If he ain't proposed to you, meaning he ain't ready to marry you for whatever reason, whether it's emotional, financial, whatever, he is not ready to marry you. So you trying to hurry the things on, get putting the pressure on them to decide. I don't think it's going to work out too well for you. I think women should not propose to men whatsoever. I think that that saying is true. Men do have control, like access to marriages and stuff like that, and women control access to like
even
sex.
if she's the boss babe, Dane.
Like I said, but she's setting herself up for possibly getting her feelings hurt and getting, because a dude will propose when he's ready. In relationships historically, the ones, well, I can just go by my experience. Women are more ready to be relationships sooner, to be married if they're marriage minded, sooner than a man is ready to be married. In a lot of cases, there could be some that's not a hard fast rule, but from my experience, that's kind of how I've seen things and experienced things. It's like the women who were marriage minded are like, I'm ready to get married. What are we waiting for? Why won't you propose? When are you gonna propose to me? That kind of stuff. It's never the other way around. A dude is never like, why ain't you proposed to me yet? What you waiting for? That's never goes like seriously.
So most a man will do is like a temperature check, like, what I'm saying? Hey, what if, what I mean? Like just talking about things 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future. And if she got an answer for it, and she's thinking, okay, you kind of know, all right, high probability she's gonna say yes. She's already making future plans, meeting the family, this, that, and the third. You kind of know where it's headed. We do temperature checks.
Yeah.
Usually women do that too. Like most women that I came across, they'll like do the temperature check, ask like what their 5-year goals and plans is. So I agree.
I mean, but we do temperature checks before we ask.
Because even
these women, these women seem like they're just coming out the blue. Like you already said, I want to get married. I want to get married. And then you create a situation with all the family there, all the friends, and then now you put yourself in a position to get your feelings hurt. Because in a lot of those videos where I see women propose, I've seen a few times where the guy said no.
That's what I'm saying. I always see no. I've never seen a yes.
I saw one yes. It was like in Atlanta or something like that. Other than that, it was like,
okay. Man.
All the other dudes walked off. Like,
but I mean, because there's certain there's things that mentally men need to realize that they need to prepare for if they're going to be in a marriage. It's different from a boyfriend situation. They need to prepare. Okay, I'm gonna be a father. I got to be a good role model. I don't care if my wife is making $150,000-$200,000 and I'm making $60,000. There's certain aspects of providing there. There's certain things that are just a part of being a husband that are just kind of what men. There's an understanding that men have, and if that guy needs to be in that frame of mind in order to do it effectively. I know any man woman who says, I got everything, let me propose to you. I don't know. It's like I said, it's setting herself possibly up for disappointment, not just saying no to, but the long-term disappointment of him not meeting expectations she may have, because you can only be the trophy husband for so long. There's a time clock. If you're
already showing a dynamic imbalance, right? So now if you propose to him, right, you're gonna have a dynamic imbalance from the very beginning. So now you felt more masculine in that situation to ask this man to marry. That's one, right? Two, now when he's running around with an engagement ring, you're not. You know what I'm saying? So while all your other girlfriends running around hitting the finger like that, He's running around talking about, so he's gonna feel emasculated when he running around talking, oh, it's my engagement ring, my girl proposed. You look crazy. And then now you're running around engaged with no ring, you look crazy. So you're gonna be the only person that did that. So unless you got that mentality where like you want to be different and you bask in that, you're already gonna feel out of place because it went against not only society's norm, but it also went against the image that you've had in your head your entire life. You know what I'm saying? And then going into that marriage, the dynamic is crazy because this is not good. It's not going to be the marriage. You're not going to meet anybody's expectations because nobody expected this. You're not going to expect. So now, are you the head of the household? That's the woman, the man. Are you the second person in the household? Who runs the show?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So now it's completely new territory. There's no there's no blueprint for this. So your whole marriage dynamic is crazy because you can't even go to marriage counseling. You go to marriage counseling, all your counselors are gonna be like, I've never seen this before. I don't know what to do.
Really? Ruby, I don't think they're gonna say that, but Ruby, your thoughts?
No, they're not gonna say that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I think the dynamic is gonna cause issues throughout the entire marriage because everything's just so new and out of the norm.
That one, I have to that part I have to disagree a little bit because Just Jay Sisson, I thought like Kate Holmes, she said the tables has turned though, because let's say for example, we're talking about the suffrage movement, right? You know, women was like, hey, we want, you know, equals in a way of like, hey, if the man gonna work, I want to have the option. I want to have the option to work. I want the option if I want to choose to be a career person. I want the option to go to school, whether it's high school, whether it's college, and that's cool. Now moving forward, okay, there's some women like, hey, well now I'm so dependent on the point where it's like, hey, I'm with somebody 5 years. I'm telling him everything. I feel like he's checking all the boxes. He claimed he loved me. He's saying he's checking all the boxes too. I want to get married. Screw it. I got the money. I got the finances. We both got the resources. Let me give him the ring, and let me give the ultimate test to see if he say yes. Because let's keep it 100. If you're dating somebody or a girlfriend and boyfriend, in the beginning, somebody should say, hey, what's our intentions? Because I'm always big on that. What's your intentions? Are we just going to be girlfriend, boyfriend for long term? Are we going to be, because I hear a lot of women, mostly adult women, say, hey, I just want to be this person. I interviewed a couple in here. I actually thought they was married by paper, but it's like, yo, we were married on the eyes of the Lord and whatever, and just we had the ring, but we're not legally married. You know what I'm saying? So, but we've been married to like, I guess they said like almost 20 years for now, but nothing by paper. So I don't think it's I'm so playing devil's advocate with this one because I might be the only eyeball everybody agreeing right now. But a lot of people right now, the tides have turned to the point where there is men like, hey, okay, if you got it, you say you got it, let's go with it. If you don't, you don't. And Ruby's not blowing kisses at me; she's blowing kisses at the chat. Ruby, what's your thought on the men, the women bend the knee and all that good stuff? Inky, if you're back and settled in, you have the link and all that good stuff in your email, lady. In your email. I don't want the men jumping down on Ruby. Don't leave Ruby by herself. Don't leave Ruby by herself.
Come make the panel extra hot, girl. Let's go.
Yeah, you too, Sandra, if you want to come on up. Who said what's up, Red Pill? Who's Red Pill? Nobody in this panel is Red Pill. Don't do that. I don't know who Red Pill is.
Well, technically I'm Red Pill. But anyway, we all know that I'm an advocate for pure Red Pill ideology because it's the thing that I agree the most with. I just think it's been very corrupted as of late.
It's not gonna go there. I already just had DL. I've been triggered with him for like that one night. We're good. What do you think about the men?
All my ladies are coming in. Just Jay. I love the ladies in the chat today. The chat is very gorgeous tonight. I'm just saying. Anyway,
she changed her name too. I think she did she did a reaction to Pressure Fit. That's pretty cool. You have the link too. If you want to come on up. Sandra, you have my email. Pinky, the link is in your email, and all the good stuff. And Just Jay is a chat person, so I don't want her attacking nobody right now. She's been on the hot streak, checking everybody. She's on a hot streak, so I appreciate her. Yes, Sandra, I know. Yeah, but go ahead, Ruby.
So here's the thing. In Angry Ginger Productions, I'm gonna have to disagree with you, right? He says, my wife told me she wanted to be proposed to, so you might as well say she proposed to me. That's not true. And I'm going to explain why it's not true. Because life in general, and including marriage, right, is actually way more of a partnership than people want to admit. even if you are a traditionalist, right? That is to say that there is no one human being in a marriage that is responsible and in control of everything, right? That's not the way adult relationships work, right? And this is, you divvy up responsibility, you divvy up goals, you divvy up who's, if I'm the person who's in control of feeding the household, right? That doesn't give me like dominion over the whole house. It's just that's my job, right? So I also have control over that, and I'm also the person who's coordinating everything that has to do with feeding our household. I'm coordinating that with everything else about our lives and all the communication and whatever that we do together. And so in that way, right, like I'm kind of the master of that. It doesn't really matter how much money you make or what your goals are and whatever in general, right? There are some exceptions, but generally, women like men who are motivated, who are productive. They like men who will take the lead, who will show that they, have some like kind of power. Women like that personally, right? But here's the thing. As soon as whoever proposes first has made a decision about the relationship and its direction first, it's their plan. So everything that now happens is under their plan and their direction. And so what you've done, if the woman's the one proposing, is you've taken all of that leadership, power, control, whatever, you've literally taken it out of his hands, not because he's a terrible leader or ineffective man or whatever. You might not even mean to be doing it, but you are, because you have decided that the relationship was ready for that next step. That's in both individuals. You've decided that you're going to be moving forward. You've decided a lot of things, and you've done it unilaterally, right? That's something that women like. Women like when men take that type of, power and control. Most men don't actually like that, first of all. But second of all, it's not effective because it puts the man in a position where he's going to fall back and now defer to her. Except most women don't like that. They really don't, because it starts feeling like everything is on her. Why does she have to do everything? Da, 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 da. Well, because you decided to move the relationship forward before he had a 5-year plan, right? Because men are the ones who think, on the bigger scale, on the 5-year plan type of scale, whatever, right? In the broad strokes. And if you decide to rush in and push that, well, he's going to defer to you because he doesn't have it. Because if he had it all laid out, he would have proposed. So now it is all on you. But you and your little thinking about all the little details in mind as a woman, you're going to get very overwhelmed about that very quickly. And it's going to start feeling terrible to you very quickly. And you're going to want him to be more invested. You're going to want him to this. You're going to want him to that. Well, then if you wanted him to do all those things, you should have waited until it was part of his 5-year plan. And then he would have done it. And then you would have been really happy with the result. So I think, some women obviously have control issues. Some women like to be the domineering, controlling one. Some women like to be the one who's leader. And some men like to be led, okay? I'm not saying there's not, exceptions to the rules. But in general, that's not the way. It doesn't matter how much money she's making. It doesn't matter what kind of job she has. It doesn't matter how powerful she is at work. It doesn't matter, right? Women tend to want a man who's going to be head of his household, be effective leader, be motivated, be powerful, da 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 da, even if it's just in their household. And as soon as you decide to get down on one knee and propose to him, you've taken all of that power, all of that direction, all of that goal setting, all of that out of his hands and put it into your own. And in essence, you've erased everything that you find attractive about men. You've erased it from your relationship. So,
and that's the dynamic shift that I was talking about. Doesn't work.
It doesn't. Generally. There are exceptions. Like I said, there are exceptions. There are definitely exceptions. But and I've said this before, I hate how much, especially in America, honestly, I'm going to just say it. Americans really place a lot of emphasis on, male roles versus female roles and tasks, right? So a man takes out the garbage and the woman cooks the meals or whatever. And it's it's not about the tasks. It's about the mentality of the human being. And so that's why I say a man who is a quadriplegic, who is no longer able to so much as lift anything, let alone take out the trash or do anything, can still be an incredibly effective leader and head of his household, even though he can't work, can't do anything, because it's not about the task. It's not. It's about who you are, how you think, and how you are interacting with the rest of the family. And you can definitely throw people off by changing the task you're doing or the way that you do something or the order you do stuff. You can throw people off and they no longer know how to function in a way that you appreciate, right? But like that functionality is super important to people liking you and wanting to work with you. So
All
It's
right, fair
funny, like
enough.
in society, I'm trying to think of where have I seen it work where it's been that dynamic, and then usually it's the only time I've seen it work. And I don't know if it's if there's a shelf life to it, even in those situations, is if there's a significant age difference. If it's an older woman with a significantly younger man, sometimes that can work because they're just leaving their mama's house, so they're used to somebody pushing them, telling them what to do and stuff like that. So it may work for a while. I've seen it work in that instance for a short period of time. You see a lot of celebrity situations like that where older women get with younger guys for. But like I said, there's a shelf life to that to do what 5-10 years, and it's over. But usually, if they're in the same like age.
You lagging? I think the Matrix got Dame.
it did.
It got him good. Hey Sandra, what's going on? Your thoughts on the women proposing to men? Like, you think that's a thing? Do you think it's okay? Would you personally do it? Have you seen people do it? I mean, if well, use me in your example. We're dating for the intent of marriage, and then you like, hey, why don't we get married? And I'm like, hey, be the typical guy like, and then you throw out the ring. Like, is that a thing?
I mean, it is a thing, but it's not something that I would personally do because here's the thing. I think a lot of girls, like when they're like 5 years old, they pretend like they're getting married and stuff like that. So I think like obviously guys know that is always in the back of the girl's mind. And if a girl is with you for like X amount of years and she's
Dang, I was gonna mess with Dave. He laughed so good. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was gonna mess with Dave.
Like, and if she's sleeping with you and she's been with you for a couple of years, I think most men know that it is most women's desire to get married. So I personally wouldn't ask a man because my whole thing is I kind of have to get a read if you actually want to do it. And if you don't want to marry me, then don't ask.
Okay, but what if my intent is if we both come into a relationship and I say I do want to get married too, and you say you do want to get married too, but I just never bring it up or just even ask you, never get the ring. So would you still propose to that guy?
No, I wouldn't, because I think like especially kind of like I sort of just like learned this lesson a little bit the hard way that you really want to kind of discuss deal breakers and things like that, and it's more or less of, oh yes, I do see marriage in the future. Well, then you let the man know, like I'm not waiting 10 years for you to pop the question and give me a ring. I'm not going to wait 5 years for you to pop the question and give me a ring. So if it's in the early stages, if you do plan on getting married to me, one day, I do not have all the time in the world. So please don't waste my time.
All right, fair enough. Dane, we're glad you're back. Felt like the
Yeah,
Matrix.
I knew that was. I knew that was going to happen. I live where I live, but internet sucks. So I was like,
and Great Pill, I did want to say something.
Sure.
The last time we were like streaming over on Angela's podcast, you dropped a comment that I was thirst trapping in the chat. I saw that. I know you probably didn't think I saw that, but I saw that.
Yeah, I was trolling.
Bro, I look like a mess. I always look like a mess.
Are you good? Deuce, you're back. Okay, so the last topic is pretty much the one that I want to get everybody into. So, Deuce, you there, good sir? We'll give him a second. But yeah, so it was a conversation from what's his name, Coach Greg Adams. We had the topic of paternity fraud. If you haven't had the experience of it, or if you know a friend or somebody where got with a woman and come to find out the child isn't yours, but you're paying child support and going throughout the struggles of the system, it's a lot going on there. So I figured I'd share this and we had the conversation about it. So
I did want to say to all the men out there, have babies in Nevada. Because in Nevada, if you file for child support, they do give you the option.
You're about to jump ahead of the story.
Okay.
You're about to jump ahead of the story. Hold on.
Okay.
So shout out to Coach Greg Adams and my homeboy Do Better podcast, because he was actually reacting to this, and I thought it'd be a very interesting conversation because it seemed like a lot of men. It doesn't seem like it's a lot of men going through this. So appreciate you.
Paternity fraud. One thing about this paternity fraud issue and why men think men get the short end of the stick in the family court is that paternity fraud, there's no criminality to it. If a person commits paternity fraud against you, they rarely go punished. And sometimes you get punished even if you are a victim of paternity fraud. Case in point, you could believe you're the father of a child for however many years the child is a child. And once you discover that you're not the father, if you're paying any support, or if you don't want to progress, continue with, being a father once it's exposed that you're not, you can still have to be paying child support for that kid. What the Family Criminal Mafia Court does is what they say is essentially you've acted as the father or you volunteered as the father. So thus, after a year or two, if you haven't been able to prove that you're not the father, if you've acted as a father, that's enough to get child support. So
do we agree, disagree on everything he's saying thus far?
That seems to be the law.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the way the law is structured. He's just repeating the law, and that's the way the law is structured.
So I grew up in a different state with different laws. So I disagree a little bit because like say there's a baby that's born out of wedlock and the woman files for child support. The man has a legal right to challenge the paternity, and basically until the test results get back, the man doesn't have to pay any child support until the results are back. So I kind of don't agree with this at all. But that's also like, that's my home state. That's a state that I lived in for 20 years. It's more of a 50-50.
What about what about signing your name on the birth certificate? Because
that's what I'm saying.
that can actually
you do that. You said, you do that.
Yeah.
You basically volunteered to be on child support if you sign the birth certificate, and you're not married to him. So.
Yeah, see, that's where I think it gets it does definitely get a little bit tricky in those regards. But I believe in Nevada because a friend of mine, I'm gonna keep him MIA. He's taking care of two kids that are not biologically his, and he's basically doing this voluntarily because honestly, without that man, those girls would have absolutely no chance. He's doing it because he genuinely loves those little girls.
Yeah, but I don't like, because Coach Greg doesn't go more into that. So, but I'll leave it like this. I feel like that's kind of like a setup too for suckers in a way, because what happens is a lot of women, okay, we get engaged, we get married, only she knows, but the guy doesn't know. And then once it's come out, he already has an attachment and a bond with that child, but the woman is just like a walking demon.
So he actually he got with her when she was 4 months pregnant. So he already knew that he wasn't the dad. Like when I tell you this is like, this man's pretty much like a unicorn.
When you worry about no, we're not putting fault on him. We're just saying the whole structure of the system, and versus majority of most women put certain men in situations that they can't get from. But the moral focus of this is the system itself. But I'll let Ruby, your thoughts on what Coach Greg Adams said thus far.
Yeah, I think first of all, I don't know, there's like I don't know if it's confusion or just misunderstanding. People seem to think that like, so first of all, a woman's cycle is just like, it's just this set in stone thing. And so even like whether the doctor gave you a window or when they predict the due date or when they think you conceived or whatever it is, right? They think that there's this solid rock set in stone thing. And so the woman 100% knows. Literally, and I mean, I'm talking about people who there was no question of paternity so much as a question of due date. And doctors have been wrong because they're predicting based on several factors. Oftentimes, especially if you don't find out right away, so you can do the blood test and get the exact level of hormone in the blood. Once it gets up to a certain level, you can't use that factor. So then they're just guessing based on size, right? And a lot of people think that it's like, oh, these women, of course they knew. Of course. I mean, there are some that they knew, right? You know that they knew, you knew that they're running a hustle or whatever, right? But more often than not, women don't know because doctors don't know. It's an imprecise thing. And so the problem with making it like a criminal thing is you would have to be able to prove that this is one of the women who was doing this intentionally versus someone who just genuinely thought, no, this is the father because this is the window I was given. This is the only person I slept with during that window. And so therefore this is for sure the father, right? I think that there is a problem with the system, and we're spending so much time pointing and blaming the men or the women instead of looking at it like, hey, if we had a system that said, okay, as soon as a baby's born, I don't care if it was born in wedlock or not, we just do a paternity test in the hospital and everyone gets swabbed and then there you go. If we had a system like that, it would eliminate so many of these issues. But because we're so busy trying to prove first who's to blame and trying to prove everyone's bad intentions and ain't shitness and whatever, like we're not really getting to a place where there's a real solution. So that's just kind of how I felt when she started talking. I was like, great, same old.
I think a good incentive for something like that, for like paternity fraud and just like making sure that, you know, maybe criminally you can't do anything because you have to be able to prove intent, that I think that you intended to do something like that. But I think a good incentive would be somehow like maybe making the girl pay the guy back, or
it's civil. It is a civil. That was what I was going to say. There's a civil recourse that you have for that. But you have to prove that they knew that you weren't the father. You know.
Well, but I don't think proof isn't really necessary in that case, because as a woman, you're gonna know if there is a chance that person cannot be the father. Like you're gonna know, because only you know what you've been doing with your own body. You get what I'm saying? So like if you've slept with like two different people within like a 3-week window, then yeah, you might not be able to prove that she intended to defraud paternity, but you can prove that there was still a probability that there was a chance that this person wasn't.
Yeah, but see, that's not what they tell you. They don't give you a 3-week window. They give you a 3-day window, right? And they say, here, you conceive between these 3 days. If you only slept with one person during those 3 days, you're like, oh, for sure. You could have slept with 50 people that month. But if you know for sure you're on a 3-day weekend with this one guy, or a 5-day weekend with this one guy during that window, then you think that you're good. This is the problem with this imprecise science, right? Huh? No, children. I don't.
Okay, I've given birth to one child whom I did lose in an accident, and from somebody that has given birth to a child, I can tell you that you know what you've been doing. You know, we all know semen can survive in a woman, I think like up to 5 days, right? Something crazy. Yeah. So just because you may have had sex with somebody in this 3-day gap, the spermies probably didn't even reach the egg until it could have been like 5 days later.
See, what you're talking about though is actually the problem that I'm actually talking about is a different problem than what you're talking about. See, what happens is everything is a guess. We don't actually know exactly when a woman ovulates, right? We don't actually know that exactly. We're guessing very often, and we're guessing based on, because normally people are not finding out they're pregnant right away.
But are we guessing who we're sleeping with though? Are we guessing who we're sleeping with?
No, we know. This is what I'm saying. Okay. So the doctor will tell you that the window, let's say, was August 10th to 12th, right? Now, let's say you only started.
So eliminate
let me give you the example, because I actually know some of this happened to. Okay. And so they tell you the window's August 10th to 12th. Okay. Well, you got a new boyfriend at the end of July, and that's the only person you've been sleeping with. So they tell you the window's August 10th to 12th. It's got to be your boyfriend's, right? So then you do actually, and this happened to a friend of mine, and she said, yeah, let's make sure we do the paternity, you know, just like off the bat. Like it was not like a thing. It's just she believes like me, like you should just do that off the bat. No one has any questions. You put in the birth certificate, you're good to go. And he wasn't the father. What happened is the doctors were incorrect about the window that this baby was conceived. Right. It's not that she cheated or whatever. It's they thought that based on the growth in the abdomen, right, that her window was the 10th to 12th based on when she said her last period was and stuff like that. But what her last period that she thought was a period wasn't a period. It was actually implantation bleeding, which not everyone gets. But it can look very much like a period. So she didn't know. And so it was actually her ex's baby. And she had actually conceived much earlier than she thought. And so when she had the baby much earlier than predicted, they thought that the baby had just come early, right? Because babies can come early. So what I'm saying is it's not an exact science, and it happens a lot, actually. It happens a lot more than you would think, that the doctors are very off. Because again, it's all guessing. It's guessing based on norms, on approximations and whatever, but generally people's bodies do what the hell they want to do. And then things can change like this.
All right. So
I don't know.
hold on, because Deuce been waiting. So if we can get Deuce, according to what I'm hearing is, so it's guessing if you sleep with a woman and then the woman sleeping with you, but because you put on a condom or you got the snip, the baby's not yours, but with fraternity frauds, she can either lie on the paper, don't get paternity, and the baby's yours. Ta-da! So I'm trying to understand, like, can you unpack that a little bit? Your thoughts of the fraternity fraud?
It's messed up. So back to what Ruby had said earlier, right? When it says like we get caught up in like one part of the conversation, it's not that there's no resolution found because of what people agree on, right? Everybody reverts back to the law, and people get it twisted. I think the women that do this are absolute scumbags.
Mm-hmm.
But people confuse legal with right. You know what I'm saying? So as long as the law doesn't say that they're wrong, then there's nothing wrong because the law doesn't say that they're wrong. You're still ethically wrong, still morally wrong. With the courts, right, and the states, the only thing that the court is worried about when it comes to this is that the children do not become wards of the state, that the state does not have to pay for them. So they're going to find somebody responsible. They're going to use everything under the sun, whether you acted as the parent, birth certificate or not, whether you were on the birth certificate, whether she put your name on the birth certificate, because y'all heard what happened to that dude in Michigan, right? Where the woman put his name on the birth certificate so she could get benefits. And my man came back and it was like 20 something years later. He was like, it's impossible. I was in jail at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I dated her a year before I went to jail, but the kid, that was 22 years ago. This kid is 20.
Mm-hmm.
But he was in jail the whole that time when the child would have been conceived and born. But she just said, yeah, I just put any name on it. I just put any name on it or whatever. And the dude was about to go to jail. They was like, yo, you're in arrears for 20 years. We don't care. Pay the money or you're going back to jail. And a nice lawyer had to take his case pro bono to fight for him to get the thing delayed so he could fight it. Like, it's crazy. So there's really almost nothing you can do. But that's why nothing happens in the courts. And most fathers' rights advocates get held off. They get denied. You know what I'm saying? They get their stuff. What's the name when they try to put in laws or whatever against this? Get shot down. They can't take it to the Supreme Court. Nothing, because for the state's purview, as long as somebody other than the state or the government is held responsible for the child financially, they're done. Now, for the case of paternity fraud in the case of marriage, most common law states have a law in place that says any child produced during the course of a marriage is a product of that marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you already got hit, because when you signed that marriage contract, you was already done. So she could, and for those people that get those Las Vegas weddings and be married and they got them Las Vegas weddings and then broke up like a week later and they never saw that person ever again, people get hit for that too. Because they can put you on child support and say, hey, I am legally married. Here's my marriage certificate. Guess what? As far as the state of Nevada is concerned, you are the father because you're the prop that child was produced during that marriage. So you have to bust in these covenants that you get into, right? Whether you sign birth certificates, whether you sign marriage certificates, men make themselves very, very, very vulnerable to this at every step of the game.
So there was something that I did
Mhm.
want to tell you
the thing
though
is-
that you are incorrect about is like my friend who knowingly signed the birth certificate knowing that he wasn't the dad. He talked to a lawyer because he's trying to get custody of the oldest child. Technically, he's got rights to the youngest, but he doesn't have rights to the oldest. And he found out through the lawyer.
Paternity rights?
Yeah, because he signed the birth certificate of the youngest. So he's trying to get rights to the oldest child because the oldest child, both of her parents both of them are trash. But when he talked to his custody lawyer, he said that if it actually came out in court that he knowingly signed a birth certificate knowing he wasn't the dad, that's also can be considered like a form of fraud, actually. like fraudulently signing a legal document. So I'm not exactly too sure what the particulars on that, but I am going to kind of challenge that point a little bit. So,
Okay,
but your state is
hold on,
different, I think.
Yeah, we can go state
Nevada
by
is a
state.
very weird state. It's like one of the freest states in the entire United States. It's like the only state that's got legal prostitution.
I mean, there's
Because-
countless cases of fathers getting still put on child support. Like, hey, well, you signed the birth certificate, so you agreed to take care of the children. It doesn't.
Yeah. And that's the law. The law is not when they're saying father is as much as like we would love it to mean biological father. That is not what father means. When you sign that birth certificate, it is an agreement that the man is making with the state, with the country, that they're going to take care of that child. Not that
that's why I asked. I'm like,
biological.
Yeah, that's why I asked. Like, is he the biological? And she's like, yeah, no, you sign a paper. That's just paper saying one responsibility is shifted, or one blame is shifted over to the other. But Dame, you had something to say, man?
No. I was just curious. It's like, I know this whole topic, is this really like a thing that's happening a lot, or is it just this one-off? Like, because
they're assuming 60%.
No, I've heard. Well, I heard a lesser number. I think it was something like anywhere from 27 to 33% of men are unknowingly raising kids that aren't there. That kind of stuff like that, where they're raising it, and then they find out later down the line, hey, you never were the kid thing, and then they got to figure out what they're going to do as far as to get reciprocity when it comes to that. But it's just, I was just curious because it's just like one of those things. Like, I think this is a fear that a lot of men seem to like put out there, is like getting taken advantage of in the child support in the family courts. But it's just one of those things. I'm just like, I don't know. I just don't see it as happening that much to be. There's not an epidemic of it happening. It may happen as a one-off, but I
wouldn't say like an epidemic, like
No.
everybody's talking about it. But I would say it's happening enough. Like a lot of men, in my experience, a lot of men just like, try to just like, because a lot of men, we got that pride about us. Like if it happened, like it is what it is, and we kind of move on from it. We don't really have like an open conversations about it. We'll just deal with it and move on from there. But the ones that's pre-recorded, like Deuce said, it's like we said 36% of it happens. Or the epic trials of case, like you said, the guy was in 20 years. There's one where like, woman just like, you know what, I just don't like you just cause, or we was loving in the beginning, now we're just vengeful, spiteful enemies after the breakup, whether he did something or not, or just whatever. And it's like, okay, well, the baby's yours, or better yet, you didn't know this, the baby was yours for 8 years and you've been doing all this stuff, but now I'm telling you now the baby's not yours. So you have a lot of women doing that. But yeah, I'll let you finish.
There are avenues from there are avenues for men to protect themselves, and if they find there's mechanisms in place for them to, like I said, to make it right, make themselves whole again to a degree. Like,
very few.
the avenue.
No, do not sign the birth certificate.
Unless
don't sign that birth certificate.
The window.
Yeah, but Ruby, the women will sign the birth certificate on their behalf too. Now they will.
They put the man's name on it, but he didn't
put the man's
sign
name on it.
Yeah.
The man doesn't sign it. They'll list you as the father. You could not be there and be listed on somebody's birth certificate as the father.
Right.
But if you sign it, if you sign the birth certificate, you're screwed. There's literally nothing you can do. If you didn't sign it. In most states, this is where you now have footing because you didn't sign it. Because remember that all that normally is happening in the hospital, right? So they can go back to the hospital records and they can say, no, the father wasn't present or the father didn't sign anything, right? And confirm that you never signed it. If you willingly chose to sign the birth certificate, that's where a lot of times they'll turn around. Oh, now the relationship went south. Now you care. Oh, well, it's too late. Too bad. So do not sign. If you have any doubts and you care, do not sign the birth certificate until you've gotten that paternity.
Okay, well, let me throw this scenario at you, and then we'll get back to the video. So, what if they're married and he signed a birth certificate, then a year later get divorced and find out the baby's not his by paternity, but then later on she was
married.
Yeah, but then she reach out to him and be like, "Yo, I'm still gonna hold you responsible, even though biologically you find a baby ain't yours."
I saw this happen twice in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yep.
It happened. You're married. You're responsible if it happened during marriage.
You're married. Any child produced during a like the only window that you have is if you found out your wife had an infidelity, and then you divorced her. You divorced her like based on that, right? So you have to file for divorce. You have to get it on record, file for separation, everything. Get it on record. Like, hey, she had an affair. She got impregnated by somebody else. That's reasons for the dissolution of marriage. Other than that, that's your window. because I'm gonna tell you right now, I never forget the story. It's happened like 30 years ago or 20 years ago. It's a dude named Ray Wise. He was married. He had 3 children with his wife. 2 of the kids had cystic fibrosis, and if you know that with that disease, both the parents have to have the gene.
It's hereditary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both parents have to have it.
Both parents have to have it. He divorces his wife. Now he knew his wife had an affair. They separated, reconciled. She did it again. He divorced her. But this was like years later. By this time, they got 3 kids. He moves on. He moves on. He's about to get in a relationship with somebody else. They get tested, saying, "Hey, my kids got it, so let's go get tested." He tried to go get his fiance tested. The doctor made both of them take it. The doctor said, "No, we're gonna test both of y'all just for anything else." Test it, and they say, "Hey, neither one of you have the genes. You're good." He's like, "Yo, that's impossible. My 2 children have it." Doctors now, his previous doctors knew the kids wasn't his, but they have no moral obligation or ethical obligation to inform you. But he told him, he's like, "I don't know how to tell you this, but medically, it is scientifically impossible. You do not have the gene." As he says, as a medical professional, you do not have the gene. That's all I can say. He goes back, gets his 2 kids tested. He's not the father. He tries to get taken off of child support. He can't. Because he's been provided, because the children were on his insurance, he's been providing financial support. He makes like $80,000 a year. The dude she was messing with, she was like an office secretary or something, making $25,000 a year. The dude had the same job, making the same amount of money as her. They kept him on the books, and he got in trouble because he told the kids that he wasn't their father.
I mean, it doesn't have to be that deep, though.
They
It can literally be.
out.
It can literally be, and this has literally happened this year. It can literally be that people separated, right? Married people separated, but didn't legally separate and aren't divorced yet. And then she gets pregnant by somebody else while they're not together, right? Has that baby, and she can still put that man on the birth and say, "Yeah, that's my husband." And as
That's
long
what I
as
said earlier.
it's the
As long
legal
as you're
husband.
married.
Oh well, oh well. That's like and that's why I say the system just needs to be changed. Like
that is something that should be changed, because I personally think like once you have the divorce paperwork filed to the courthouse, even if like nothing else has happened, but as long as like those papers have been filed, to me it's like you've already started the process of no longer being married. So I don't. That's definitely a law that should be changed.
No, it's a lot. But let's get back to the video.
Warn young men about the dangers of dating single mothers. Yeah, the single mother has a kid, 3 years old. He needs a father in his life. You volunteer. You're with that woman from the kid's ages 3 to 6, and then you break up. She can, in some places, put you on child support. Yes. And no, you will not get reimbursed for child support. Child support, and never in the history of child support have they reimbursed a dime. What child support does is they essentially might, they have a couple of things, and I can't remember what they're called. They don't give you money back. They just take credit back. So if you're in arrears, you could get credit back from the arrears, but they ain't going to cut you no check. All right. They ain't cutting you no check and say, "Oh, you put in 40,000. Here's 40,000 back." But if you were in 40,000 in arrears and something comes up, and they might credit it back per month. So watch out for that. Now, here's the deal. Paternity fraud is not illegal in almost every state in part of our world here. And I'm going to show you Memphis, Tennessee is starting to probably make something here illegal. And I know something's cut off here. It says Memphis state representatives DNA bill makes its way through the Tennessee legislature. And it says right here, the House Bill 2698 passed the Children and Family Affairs Subcommittee on Wednesday, but not without a challenge from the Tennessee Department of Human Services. What is the Tennessee Department of Human Services? That's the Child Support Office. So the Child Support Office is fighting against having unmarried men. It says right here, a bill that will prevent unmarried men from claiming a child that isn't biologically their own. The Child Support Services Office, the Department of Human Services, which is not about human services, they're about welfare. They're fighting this bill because they do not want DNA findings to be, they don't want mandatory DNA, and they don't want a man to find out he ain't the child, because that is going to hurt their pockets. Yep. They don't.
Do we agree or
Okay,
disagree now?
some he said that I think he left out some context on one thing. Number one, when he
Yeah,
said if you
let's go Dame first.
Yeah, do you have the
Friction,
article? You could post the link.
I'll
Let's
find
see.
it as Dame
Thank
talk about.
you.
Hold on, let me say this. Friction Viction said some stuff in the chat. I'll pop it up and you can address it later. Friction Viction. I think I emailed you in the comments on your end. Please check it out. I'll just send you my email right now in the comment section because I didn't have nowhere else to contact you except for reaching out to Traveling Fools. So I'm gonna leave you my email in the comment section, please, so you can email me. But go ahead, Dame.
Yeah, I think there's some things that was kind of left out in the statement. If you met a woman who's 3, you with her for till you're 6, and you break up and you still could be on child support, there's some circumstances that have to be met. There's some conditions that have to be met. Number one, she can't be getting child support from the father already. She can't be getting child support from the biological father of the child and get it from you as well, or switch it to you. And if the biological father is in the life act, even if he's not on child support and he's paying and he's acting as a father, picking him up, taking him up, doing some visitation and stuff like that, you can't be put on child support if he's active in the child's life as well. So that's the thing that kind of like, no matter how much money he got, if he's broke or whatever, if he's performing his fatherly duties, you can't put somebody who's either already paying child support, you can't, who if they already getting child support, or if there's a father who's actively involved in the child's life. So that's why women, make sure that if you're getting women that are have kids, make sure that they're getting child support from somebody else, so you don't get put on it if y'all break up. So women get child support, and dudes make sure they're getting child support.
The chess
To
game.
be honest, sorry.
Oh, you're good. I'll let you go. Deuce. And then Sandra. Deuce, you had some thoughts. Then Sandra did Ruby.
No, I don't know. I think that's state by state because I know somebody told me that they was collecting child support from this girl's mother. Said her mother collected child support from her biological father, and the mother was getting 2 child supports. I think it's like a case by case
maybe
thing.
two different maybe 2 different kids or something like that getting child support. There's no way two women can get child support from 2 different men. It's just illegal. That's
she had a stepdad.
fraud.
She had a stepdad that divorced. She had a stepdad. She had a stepdad. I gotta hit her up and ask her because she told me about this a couple years ago.
There's no way she could have been getting it from the biological dad if she's getting it from the stepdad.
The court concluded that the stepfather seeks relief on support for the child because of what he calls double dipping, represented by the support currently being paid by the biological father. Gratuitously, he argues that the child chose not to see him and should not have to pay child support because of the biological father's support with respect to the child. Blah 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 blah. With a spouse against him. The spouse against whom a child support order is sought stands in the place of a parent or a child. The amount of child support is in respect of that spouse. Such amount as the court considers appropriate, having regard of these guidelines and any part of the child's legal duty, any part of the parent's legal duty to support the child. Apparently, this guy got put on child support. She was double dipping.
Yeah, she was great. She was being illegal. She was doing something illegal.
But yeah, can't she
Is
get
this the article you're looking at? Is this the article you're looking at now that we just?
It's a 2012 Stelter versus Stelter.
Okay.
In the end, the court ordered the stepfather to pay 1/3 of the total child support owing for the girl, with the unseen biological father to continue paying the remaining 2/3.
Wow.
Ain't no way.
Yeah.
Wow. Listen,
Ruby,
it's a cool world.
Yeah. Ruby, you have anything before we go straight to the video? Or are you MIA for a hot minute?
No, I'm here.
It's an evil world we live in.
No, to me, I just think that, and I mean, I don't know. I would like to see this article that he's reading because I can't find it, so I'm looking for it because
put it in the back chat, dudes.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. If anyone has the article, if you can put it in the back chat for me, that'd be great. Because like it seems as though Tennessee, because I did gather this is from Tennessee, and it seems that Tennessee though actually does protect some unmarried men in some ways, but that could be harmful or helpful depending, right? Like if you actually really care about your kids and you're unmarried, the fact that you don't get automatic parental rights and obligations might hurt you, right? But if you don't like this woman and you don't think her kid's yours and you guys aren't married, you might be happy that there's no way that she could just say, well, I was dating him, so he's the father, and then just screw you, right? So it seems like Tennessee kind of has their heart in the right place. So I want to see the article to kind of,
Well, and
get a better grasp.
Even just like Nevada, like if you're not married and like the guy decides to challenge it, they will not start charging you child support until those test results get back.
Right, which
So-
they shouldn't. Like,
Yeah, and they
Okay, so-
definitely shouldn't, like, especially if you choose to challenge it. But there is somebody in the chat that said that child support is like a whole demon or whatever. I think there is it's hard because it's kind of like a middle ground. Like, yes, there's people that take advantage of the child support system, but to say that child support isn't necessary in a lot of cases, I think is also kind of a little bit of a
I kind of agree to a fault on this one because number one, with we'll get further into it, but for the a little bit what Coach Greg Adam explaining, and I only can speak for us men and the men that I know that actually has been used and abused for the system. When we're talking about the system itself, number one, they just only add it for the money. They will keep you there to the point like, hey, if it's $30, if it's $500, it'll be a portion that goes straight to the state. That is one of them.
yeah, that's not true.
Yeah, and then
So,
we just
remember
already.
that?
Go ahead.
You have
Go
to
ahead,
pay
Dave.
it to the state. You have to pay it to the state. You're exactly right. AB. It was what's called because you got to pay it to the state or it doesn't count. Because I remember I was watching this. Gilbert Arenas? He was talking about he was writing checks from a bank account to his baby mom, and they said, you know what, that don't count because you didn't pay it through the state, and because the state takes
it's considered a gift.
Yeah, it's exactly. So the state has a fee attached to it that they get breaded out for processing the check to the mama. So that's what it's and that's why yes, they want you to keep paying child support, and that's why they go after you so hard when you don't pay it. They have California, I think you use your driver's license. You don't pay driver, you can't even drive.
Man, that's in every
reason
state that they take away your driver's license if you don't pay child support. I've got one child on it since basically she was
What you mean
born.
you got
because
hold on. What you mean you got one child on it? You put a child on child support, or somebody put that child on child support?
No, I mean, when I had my daughter, her biological father was already pregnant with another girl like 3 months later. And I ended up moving back to my home state from Georgia to California because we needed to get out of that situation, even though I was trying to make things work until I found out that, she was pregnant too. And basically had to sign up for some sort of welfare type system when I had first established my pregnancy in Georgia. And it spiked, like, as soon as you sign up for any sort of welfare system, whether it be Medicare, TAMF, like temporary assistance for needy families, or just extra mother assistance, or even sometimes WIC, it is going to basically send out an alert to your government, whatever. I don't know what the fuck that system is exactly, that covers all the welfare and the child support and everything like that. That they're going to try and reach out to whoever that biological father is, and they're going to try and establish that paternity just to get that money because it's flowing through them instead of themselves. And
okay,
it
well,
was an immediate thing.
Hold on, time out before they go. Hold on, because before they get there, before they get to that route, like, so if you're applying for welfare, some kind of a government assistance, do they not ask you of, hey, well, you're pregnant. Do you know the father's name? Do you know his information? And if that answer is yes, do you willingly give out that information? Because no way nobody can just go by your name that somehow track from you to the baby father.
You can.
Well, some people willingly give out that information, but
Did you give out that
unless you
information?
actually sign. So from
Yeah,
what
but
I
did you?
understand,
Yeah, but
in
if you're
any state,
yeah, but friction. Hold on. But you're saying I went to file for government assistance at that point in time, and then you skipped it. For me, I feel like you skipped the beat. So they
okay,
don't they ask you about
you're right. You're
the
right.
information for the father?
Okay, so when I first had her, I was living in Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah, but let's
Even
get to.
though
I don't want to. Yeah. Hold on, because doxing's a real thing in this world. And digital footprints is a real thing. I'm just trying to get to the core of the conversation of like the moment you went to apply for government assistance at that moment in the past, they asked you or did they not ask you for the child's father's information?
they had already established paternity. The second that I gave birth to her, at the
How did they do
hospital that I
that?
gave birth to her, they questioned me, and when I gave them the name of the father, they put out a blood test at that point because I was on Medicare or Medicaid. I'm sorry, Medicare or whatever the one is for younger people, not the older people. And as soon as I had her, like the day that I had her, the woman came in right after I had her and got asked me all these questions. And she said, okay, all right, you know his name and you know about his whereabouts. And they reached out to him immediately because I was on already government assistance from a medical insurance. And they said, yep, we've completely 99.99999% established paternity. And at that point, you know, they do follow up with child or taking away your license and everything else like that to take away child support, but at this or if you're not paying the child support, but at the same time, it takes several months for a mother to actually not be receiving that child support. And I'm telling you, I'm on the lowest grade of child support that I think that any woman is receiving across the United States. Like
Okay,
I could challenge it, and I've never challenged it because I don't really want to. But it's one of those things that if he stops paying, it's going to take months before they even notice it. They're not really following up with it that like.
Well, Grey Pill, just to give you an idea though, you cannot get any government assistance at all unless you give them a name. So if you need that desperately to feed your child, to whatever, if you're already on some type of assistance, like you said, for medical assistance, whatever, you can't not give them a name. They absolutely will not help you. They will not help you. So you have to give them some name. You have to.
There's one circumstance where they will allow you to not give a name, and that is if there's like some type of DV that's been documented and it's like for
you still have to
actual
give them the
safety
name.
reasons.
You have to give them that name. That's the problem. You still have to give them the name and the case files and whatever. So you still have to
filled
give
out
them the
that
name.
paperwork before, babe. No, it doesn't work like that.
Oh well, it
You-
happened
They
like
never
that for
act-
my friend.
they never
like
act-
literally last year.
Not in that state.
Yeah,
I've
so they
actually
never
filled
act.
out-
So they never.
It also depends
time out,
on the
time
state
out,
that you're
time
in,
out,
you guys.
Time out. Let's time out. Let's do the pretend game. We're gonna do the pretend game. Let's pretend it's Grey Pill Podcast and Ruby's the host. Okay, I'm allow everybody to have conversation. That's how that magic trick works. No friction. You don't have your mic on. You're going from a phone. Sandra, you're going from a phone, so I understand. But I will suggest for people in the future, get headphones. Friction, I know you got a whole studio mic and you just came around me, so you get a pass. But let's take time out. So I'll let Ruby go, and Inky give her thoughts. And because there was something here, I want to say this real quick because there was something here, and I apologize, Amazon. There was something here that she said because she said, "Hey, my child's father was in the system, but I understood quickly." And I'm paraphrasing, Amazon. She said, "But I understood quickly. Like I'm getting like pennies at dimes. So why would I even put him on any child support when I know?" It comes out more beneficial for my child's father to just be there for my child. So I'm gonna present that as my argument there, because even a friend of mine I knew in high school, the dude, either he wouldn't give, or the system was giving like what, $50 or $100. Alabama's like what, almost $50, $100, because all these people in these spaces always talking about, hey man, $5,000, $500. Like, bro, a lot of states that I've seen and people that I know, they're not once a month. $50 don't go nowhere. So a lot of women like, I don't even trip over it.
The
So
average child support payment is like $37.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Exactly. So it's like, at that point, it's like, why even trip over $37? So I'd rather just have the dude, the kid's father's not working out with us. I can't stand his gut, but at least he's been there for my kid. So I'd rather have him just be a father for my kid, and then just, we're good.
Well, that's not the case with a lot of people. And
that's true.
I mean,
but right now, yeah, no, you're right. But we're talking about this, the system itself with paternity fraud. Like, there's a lot of women out there signing people names, just openly, verbally giving information that's not true, or that is true. And you know the father, you pick the father, you know daggone well he was a deadbeat dad, he was a buster, he was a bum, he was all this stuff from the beginning, but you chose to sleep with him. Now you had the kid. It's like, then you're like, well, I want him to do something. He's still not doing something. So a lot of spiteful women go out there, put him in the system. Now, $37? Is it worth $37 for your the child for 18, 20 something years, and then their license is gone? So now he still can't get a job. So now all them years you're going back, like it's reverting. So yeah, I don't know.
You're skipping a step. See, it's not like a flat rate. Okay, it's a percentage of the man's salary. And that should tell you why it is that people get put on birth certificates when they've never even met the woman before. And actually, there's a case that was going on this year of a guy. He's like, I don't know her. I've never slept with her. I don't know her. But she took his name and put it on the birth certificate anyway. Why? Because he had a really high paying job. And, child support is a percentage of your income minus whatever other responsibilities that you would have accumulated, right? So if you make $100,000 or $1 million a year, you're paying a lot more child support than someone who's working for, $8 an hour and only works part-time, right? Because you're only paying a percentage. So that's where a lot of people end up getting like $30, $37, because, the job that your baby daddy has on record, that's, 10, 20% of his pay a month, because he ain't really working, because he ain't really shit. And then these women go, okay, well, you know what? I slept with that guy, but I also slept with that guy making 6 figures. And then I also slept with this guy over here. And that's around the right time. And
fucking
that's
people she's sleeping with all around the same time
some of them
period.
have no idea. No, and that's why some of them.
If the man is willing to pay for paternity testing, I mean, he could easily have, no matter what state you're in, and I'm from California, where they have the most strictest of shit. I have a sister in Texas that knows all the shit that goes on there. I don't have no idea on the New York side. I live down in Georgia, and I've never heard of a state where if you establish that you have no biological paternity to this child at all, where you cannot fight. I mean, it sucks that you might have to pay legal fees for an attorney to fight this off. But if you can establish that you have no paternity, biological DNA to this child, you can absolutely 100 throw off anybody, regardless of how.
Nope,
I mean, especially if you're the big dollar maker, you could throw off anybody.
Not in every state, because that's not the law in every state. Right. And this is, again, why it is that you can have someone in the case that I'm talking about. And I'll pull up the link in a second. But in the case I'm talking about, this woman, again, he just got a notification in the mail that he was in arrears for child support. Remember, he didn't know this woman at all. She picked his name, like literally off a list. Okay. And just put his name there. He was like, I don't know her. Proved he's like the paternity 0%. You obviously can't prove you've never met someone, never slept with someone, but like his wife believes him. Because he was never in any of the places she ever was. And yet somehow or another, no one's saying, well, it's okay, sir. You don't have to pay. And it happens all the time, because not every state has those laws that say, hey, well, if you have no paternity, then you don't owe money, right? And in fact, people have gone and proven that, hey, I didn't even know this woman had ever been pregnant, let alone had a child. I never slept with her. And now I owe 4 years of arrears, and I'm not the child's father. And you guys are going to ruin my life and put me in prison for a child that biologically is not mine, that I've never met, that I didn't even know she had. And
But you're saying
honestly,
that's
there's
because
some
they were
states that
married,
support that.
right?
No, it's because she put his name on the birth certificate, and it
And
depends on what state you're in, and that's all that. No, he didn't sign it. He didn't know she was pregnant. Didn't know she had a
I
kid,
know.
and it's
I
happened
know.
lots of
so
times.
that's just a state that's really behind their legal system and
Yeah,
with medical stuff.
A lot of states are like that, though.
Well, because like even in my home state of Nevada, like the hospitals, a lot of the hospitals' policies are they won't let you put a man's name on the birth certificate. The man's actually has to be there to sign it.
Yeah,
Nevada?
and
Yeah.
I've heard that
Yeah,
in
Nevada,
some
yeah,
states too.
absolutely. That's where I had my son, and like his dad was like a 6-figure dad, and he was not there for the birth of the kid, and I was not allowed to put his name on the birth certificate. The hospital would not let
Is
me.
that the only state like that, Sandra?
Tennessee won't let you
I
either.
don't know, because Nevada's like one of those. It's a joint custody state, so they do take they do the 18-18 rule, like they do take a percentage of the man's income, and but if a man wants like joint custody, they're pretty good at giving joint custody. And then when you have joint custody, then what they'll do is they'll do like the 18-18 rule. Say like the girl makes 45,000 a year, dad makes 100K a year. They'll take 18% of her income, 18% of his income, and then they just make him pay like the difference. Usually, like especially if it's like a 50-50 custody. But even in Nevada, which a lot of like I also want men to know, if you're gonna have a baby, go to Nevada. They also put a cap on how much child support you can pay for one kid. So like say you make like $120,000 a year. They expect both parents to still support the child. So even though 18% of like 120 grand is it's something astronomical, like $1,500 a month, Nevada actually does say, oh no, the mom's still responsible for also supporting that kid. So the cap for one child is actually like $812 a month.
Okay. Fair enough. Hold on. Dame and Deuce, do you have anything to say before I move on to Inky? If not, then I'll go to the rest of the video.
So I thought the last thing I'm gonna say on this, right, is all of this stuff, whether we agree with it or not, right? Most men get messed over on this because the court is only thinking about one thing: what's in the best interest of the child. The court will absolutely make a man pay child support for a child that is not his if it is deemed that is in the best interest of the child. Point blank period. And that's things are starting to change a little now because it's becoming more common in conversation. But but remember, courts go off of precedents, especially with common law states. So since this was a precedent that was set by either that state or in that circuit, it's going to stay that way because it's in the best interest of the child. So they're not, because what they're not going to do is take the child off child support, and then now there's no person to provide financial support for this child, and then now this child is now like destitute. You know what I'm saying? Or like, poor and can't be provided for. And that's the mess. That's where the system is messed up. And there are some states, yes, where you can you're still able to put a man's name on a birth certificate and he's not in the room. And then, like I said, when they apply for benefits and stuff, you got to provide a name. If your name gets provided, now you have to do you have to do the work and the due diligence to get yourself taken off of child support.
You said most of the time. What is the
uphill
statistic on paternity fraud? Like, what is the actual stat on that? Because you say that it happens a majority of the time, or like most men. So, what's the statistic on that? I was just curious.
So there's been some like paternity labs and stuff saying that like upwards of 60% of the labs that they get is the father's not the person that said is the father, not the father. So some paternity labs are like 60%, but you're looking at somewhere around like 30% total.
Yeah, well, yeah, because that's a biased sample, right? Like it's a biased sample of the people who would be checking for paternity to begin with are people who already have suspicions or lack of trust or, previous history of infidelity. So that's not really representative
a lot of people
of the overall society. It's a representative sample size of people who already have those types of issues in their relationship.
I think it's more common than not, because I've seen this several times. I'm not going to out the people, but I've seen it several times. I've seen it where people are discovering later in life that their father's not their real father.
Mm-hmm.
I find out with people where I had a situation myself where a girl tried to hit me with something, but I was just like, all right, cool. If that's the case, let me just take a DNA test. And I just kept saying, I was like checking up on her throughout the pregnancy, everything. And then after she had the baby, and I said, that baby don't look nothing like me, but we could take this DNA test. Then she was like, oh, I got something to tell you. Oh yeah, because you thought I was just going to go along with it. Nah, we gonna take this DNA test.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the thing
Inky,
is though that. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry. Inky, do you have any thoughts thus far?
What was the question about for child support? What was that?
Well, overall, we was going over
Because
Coach
it was
Craig Adam.
something. It was something about. Oh, I hate it when I have a brain fart.
You're
No
fine.
refunds on child support if
If it had something to do with domestic violence.
oh.
I don't think nobody mentioned that so
Yeah,
far.
I did.
Okay.
What was that about?
So
Put a name on birth
in
certificate.
Nevada, when you are filling out the paperwork, you actually do not have to put down a name. It's like you can claim like I forgot what the clause is called on the paperwork, but you can actually just like check a box saying like, hey, there's safety issues, like like it's a domestic violence type of situation where you actually do not have to release a name because you don't want to risk the man finding you.
Correct.
So they do actually have that in Nevada where that is I think like the one case where you do not have to list a name if you are applying for governmental assistance.
She's correct. You don't when it comes to domestic violence, you do not have to put the father's name on there if it's in risk of you or the child.
My friend had to last year, and like this
Well, that's
was
your
like
friend. Different states have different laws, girl.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There are differences. That's why I was like, my whole point was like, I'm like, no, there are definitely because the state that she was living in and the state she could have went to that her family lived in, both of them had the same issue. So they weren't gonna notify him. Right. And so like it's like they had that clause. Like this is where I was like, maybe we're speaking about the same thing, but I don't know, because like literally she notified them about the domestic violence issues. She was in a domestic violence shelter at the time and whatever, and they were never going to notify him or whatever, right? And this was her kind of going forward from there. Any proceedings in court or whatever would be, he wouldn't be named or mentioned, but in the files he's named. Like when she applied, she had to name it. They had to look into it, and there had to be an actual, like she couldn't have just said, oh, well, there's domestic violence. There had to be proof that there was domestic violence, whether it was hospital records or police files or something. They wouldn't have just taken her word for it that like, oh, it's a dangerous situation for me.
That's good.
Right. So in the state of Nevada, you don't need that. You can just write out the clause stating that this is the situation. She is right on that. Sandra is correct. I work with the Attorney General in Carson City.
Where are you from, girl? Thing, but it can be abused.
Where are you living at?
No. We're not doing that. We're not giving out information like that. Again,
she lives in my heart. That's where she lives.
Thank you. That's where she lived at, in her heart. And if you want to know where she at, she's in the future. Shout out to
there you go.
Don, not the Don.
Well, I was just in Reno. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, we can have that as a private conversation.
2040.
Yeah. Anybody want to give their own public information out? That's fine. But asking somebody that, I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to allow that.
It just makes it too easy for people's personal information to get out. And especially if you come from a situation that's domestic violence, it can put you in danger. This is the public web.
Correct. All right. So let's go back to so with that being said, let's go back to the video.
This shows you what the family court is about. Right here. And it says right here, he presented the magistrate with the DNA findings. Actually, in skipping here, it says right here, Memphis Representative Antonio Parkinson is sponsoring the whole House version of the bill. He says some constituents say they've been forced to pay child support after finding a child that they thought was theirs was not. And he presented to the magistrate with the DNA findings, said represent Parkinson. The magistrate said, somebody got to take care of him, referring to the child, and it's going to be you, and gavel them out. Okay. And he said, oh, somebody is.
And that's you.
Now, here's the thing of how child support mindset works. First of all, it's extortion. Let's just call it what it is. And it incentivizes women to pin paternity on a man, and he ain't the man. It also allows wives to use the child support system as a way to take resources away from a man. So they will commit parental alienation against the man to secure child support funds. Now everybody knows that's happening, but of course, in few cases, some deadbeat daddies run off and they're like, "Yeah, but it's about the deadbeat dads." Well, that's the small percentage of cases. I believe that married men should not even be considered a part of the child support system. Should be considered something else. All right, but what divorcees do, wives, is that they keep custody, or they'll fight the man for custody, and they'll pay tens of thousands of dollars, and all of a sudden they'll take the man in for child support, and you'll find out they were alienating the kids for it. Now, here's the thing: this paternity fraud issue has come up several times, but they still don't have mandatory DNA testing. So when women say that the system is against them, the system highly makes things that should be criminal and should be certain, uncertain, and not criminal. Paternity fraud is not criminal. No criminality. In fact, she could have collected years of child support and doesn't have to pay it back. And she committed a crime. Not only a crime against humanity. Not only that, in cases of pregnancy, it would be relatively easy to perform DNA tests on all children birth at this point. There's no hurdles that we have to jump through to make DNA tests mandatory on all births. The only hurdle is these child support cocksucking criminals that will fight the legislatures from these bills being passed. Why? Because that's going to cut into their pockets.
Do we agree with that? And
I disagree.
you feel like it should be like, you disagree?
I think
Go
there
ahead.
should
Why
be
you disagree?
mandatory.
100% agree.
I
100%.
think
What
that there should
Sandra?
be
She said she
mandatory
disagreed.
DNA test.
Well,
I
there's
agree with
just one
that.
point that there's one point that I disagree with was when he said, "Oh, like the baby daddies that ain't crap are just a minor part of the child support cases." That one I don't believe at all. 'Cause I've seen more men than I can count. Like, I mean, what about that guy that says, "I got 7 kids and 7 baby mamas, and they trying to go after me for child support"? Like, I think that is way more common than that guy would care to admit.
Deuce, your thoughts?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to argue on the numbers, but you also have to think with the number of divorces that happen, child support is automatically calculated. Any divorce with children, what's the name, right? So like for instance, you have the choice, right? In an unmarried couple, a child out of wedlock, a woman can either file for child support or not file for child support. But child support is 100% assessed in every single divorce, right? That's just part of the divorce process. So I think that's going to be your most consistent figure when it comes to that. When it comes to child support.
Here, 44% of women are only getting their full child support payments. It says it right there, 44%. So that, to me, that already tells me no. It's just by that number alone. Obviously, if the baby daddy ain't nothing, well, where's the other 56%? It's probably the baby daddy that ain't nothing. So, I mean, if we're being real here, I think a majority of cases are the "I got 7 kids and 7 baby mamas." I think a majority of cases are like that.
Yeah, I feel like this. Like as a married man with 3 kids, if me and my wife were to lose our minds and decide we don't want to be with each other again, she's getting whatever she wants because I know her as a good person and stuff like that. Or whatever she's gonna get the child support. I'm pay it, and I'm gonna pay it wholeheartedly because historically after divorce, every dude I know who got divorced who had to pay child support is doing far better than the woman that they had to pay child support with. It's
That's not true.
In the immediate.
Not true.
Hold on. How you gonna tell me what I said? I said everybody I know.
He said anecdotally.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you said everybody. I'm sorry.
Okay. So everybody I know who's gotten divorced and was paying child support, the man is doing far better than the woman who was receiving the child support. Maybe early on, the dude was going through some kind of financial issues, but like 5-10 years later, he's still back kicking. He's still driving a nice car. He still has the great life or whatever like that because it kind of worked itself out. He figured a way to kind of compensate and make the money back and stuff like that. Men historically end up being far better off in these situations in the long term than women do. So I mean, it's gonna sting for a little bit, but man up and pay for your fucking kids and get it back, make it back, make it again.
Can I ask you a question with that? You know, the guys that you know, right? Obviously, it's more men. You just 1 and 2. So when them men had the child, you know, did they ever, you know, complain and cry online about the situation, or it's like they just, you know, they know there's their child, the relationship didn't work out, they just did what they did to do? Because it was one story that I heard where one gentleman that's, you know, a you know, self-proclaiming to be a high earner, had a girlfriend for 3 years, made the claim to begin like, look, I don't want to have a child. That's what they both. He said on his end, like, I don't want to have kids. 3 years later, whether she planned it or manipulated or they, you know, it was a oopsie, ended up having a child. So now he's, you know, he's pretty much ventful about the situation versus just, you know, being like your guy. So I'm trying to understand, like, why would somebody that's a high earner?
The oopsie shit is like, it's like, dude, if you have been up for second sex, you know, if you're an adult, you know the potential consequence of that is the birth of a child. So it's just one of those things. It's like, if you know you don't want to have kids, you need to do something medically to yourself to make sure that you didn't have kids, or wear condoms or whatever. That's the only thing you can really do for yourself. So you can't just sit there and I feel like any dude who was like, I don't want children, but I want to do everything that makes children. I'm like, then you gotta man up and be responsible and like deal with the outcome of it. And if that's financial, that is what it is.
I was gonna say, like, on like an individual basis, I think that and I think this goes for both men and women. It's not a gender specific thing, but don't put yourself in a situation where your future is at the mercy of somebody else. And I think that's a really good way, like, especially when it comes to like sex and stuff like that. A lot of guys will say, you know, like the whole, oh, well, women have all these lists of birth controls. Well, my father was like, oh, and we don't have any elements of birth control. Like, you can get snipped, you can use protection, you can pull out.
They're not hearing that, Sandra. I did like 2 seconds on that over here. They is not hearing the snip. And then a lot of guys that I came across, there's like, yo, it feels better raw dog Ronnie in it than versus throwing some rubbers on. So
where there's a benefit, there's a sacrifice.
I know a bunch of people
afterwards.
I know a bunch of guys.
I got a vasectomy. I got 3 kids, and I knew I got my vasectomy a week before my 3rd child was even born. I knew I didn't want any more kids after that. Seriously, it's just like, it's not that bad. It's not. So I think if you know that you don't want to have any more kids and you don't want to have to deal with the bullshit, get a fucking vasectomy, and then you can go as raw as you want to go.
Exactly. Where there's a sacrifice, there's also a benefit. So yeah, it might suck putting on condoms. It might not feel as great, but you know what the benefit is that there's like a 97% chance you're not gonna have a kid.
Well, what about like your health in life? Because we always have this conversation around condoms and pregnancy, and people are not willing to wear them then, but they want to hate women and child support and whatever. And it's like, okay, but what about, I don't know, every disease you could possibly catch, including the ones that never go away and could kill you? Because I find it wild that no one is willing to protect their health on both sides, that women are willing to let randoms raw dog them and that dudes are willing to raw dog randoms. And I think that this is now where we get into the issue of, why do you hate yourself, or why do you think yourself and your life and your future and your career and everything about you, why do you think that it's worth so little that it's not worth in any way, shape, or form protecting even a little bit? You know, you want everyone else to take accountability to save you from yourself. And then when that doesn't happen, you want to be mad. But the thing is, and I'll say this, the sad thing is, I think if we were really able to really keep track, which we can't, it's very difficult. But if we were able to keep track, that type of guy that type of situation is actually a lot less than you think. The majority, I think, of the situations that we're looking at are people who are raw dogging someone they want to raw dog because they're with that person, they love that person, and they're probably even saying, I want a kid with you. And so then they get pregnant, they want the kid. They're going through this magical thing called life together. Yay, pregnancy. And then at some point they break up because they don't really know each other. And this is a very stressful situation. And then he doesn't want the kid. Right. And this is where, and again, like we never talk about any situation, but like the one where, oh, this woman, she should have known I didn't want kids. Well, what about all the times that he wanted a kid? Because the majority of the things you hear is he wanted the kid and then we broke up and then he no longer wanted the kids. And now he wants an escape hatch to get him out of the kid that he wanted, that we both wanted. So we both signed up for this. And then sometime after 21 to 24 weeks, depending on what state you're in, he said, no, we're breaking up. And now I don't want the kid anymore. Oh, well, it's too late now because y'all made a decision. You jumped in. You said you wanted it. Now you want to be able to back out of it after, no one can. Because you could have said at the beginning, but you didn't. And we never want to talk about the fact that I really do believe that is the majority of the situations. And we never talk about it. We just swat it off and let's go back to all the women who are scamming people or all the pookies.
How many states are abortion illegal in?
Now
24.
Yeah,
20,
something like that.
I think 24.
How many states that y'all females live in is abortion legal in?
Oh, I live somewhere where women actually have equal rights. It's actually in our constitution. So I live in Canada, so it's legal here.
I did hear Vivek Ramaswamy said that 60% of abortions could be avoided if the woman had a supportive male partner. He said that in an interview recently. I don't remember which one it was on, but I was wondering if that was true. And then my next question is, can you still get the bumpy STI even with using a condom? The herp?
Yeah.
Can you still get that even if you use a condom?
Yeah. It doesn't kill you.
What is that? STI? Sexually transmitted what?
Infection.
Oh.
Let's call it. Hey, but as Rhea said something dope, I did like that. She made a real good point where if I'm pronouncing the name right, is that men, like I said, get back into, like I said, how men are doing far better. And she made a point that were directly to what I said about the guys I know. Some of them got into other marriages and other relationships, and it's easy for a man to get into a two-income situation already again, because they can get with somebody and be back in the game again, back to where they were, what have you. It's a lot easier for a man to do that than for a woman who's got 3 kids, than a man who meets somebody and they back with a two-income household again, living the life that they were living. So
I agree.
I agree, but that's a consequence. They want to be the primary caregiver, primary guardian. They want to be primary guardian. That's a consequence of being a primary guardian. It is what it is.
Well, and in divorce cases, right? They say that the average man's income usually dips by about 23%, but the average woman's income in a divorce setting with kids dips by 41%. Is that true?
Sounds right.
I don't know, but I'll tell you something that I do know about the divorce thing, because all people generally in a happy marriage, whether you're talking about the man, the woman, or the children, are about 40% more successful than their unmarried counterparts. Men are the only people who, if the marriage is miserable, will still be 40% more successful than their unmarried counterparts, right? So then people go, yeah, but men are the ones who are going to be hit the hardest. They lose this alimony and this and that. Now, first of all, you can go look at the statistics on how many people actually pay alimony and how high it is.
5% or something like that.
And it's a very small number. But even if you were to take that into account, here's the thing.
I got to pay alimony.
When you are 40% more successful than all your counterparts, your unmarried counterparts, that's in all factors, right? So it's not just, you have 40% more money or something, right? It's the job promotions, it's the social circles, it's it's everything. You're 40% more successful than your unmarried counterparts. Counterparts being other people who've achieved the exact same way you have up until this point in life, right? As far as you have, the same education, same career, same type of living environment. It's just the only difference is one of you is married, one of you is not. And they've done these studies for forever. And what it proves is you've done all this other stuff, right? So you've gotten these other promotions. You have, you've got the in with the boss, right? You've got all these other great connections and great things that you've built in your life. Those things aren't going to go away just because you got divorced, right? So you're able to bounce back from a financial setback way better than your unmarried counterparts would be, because you already have all these other progressive things on the path. Do you know what I mean? So what they find is that, like you said, initially there might be a hit, right? Initially it might hurt a little bit, right? But the reason why the Bezos and all these multi-billionaires of the world keep immediately getting married again is because even though there's initially a little bit of a hit, it's no sweat off their ass. And trust me, the way that they're going to rebound and then surpass where they were like in a year or two, it's nothing. It's no sweat off their ass, literally. And they can't wait to get another
The
wife
reason
and
they
keep
keep
being
getting married,
40% more successful.
the reason why they keep getting married though is because of tax breaks. Because they face huge tax break. They get huge tax breaks when they're married. So it's one of those things, and it's the same thing with like donating to charities and stuff like that. Sometimes you got to donate 100 million so you can save 200 million. You know what I'm saying? So that's
just
why
one,
they're
but that's
doing
just
that.
one thing. It's more than that, though. See, people who do know about the, about 1,400 or so legal and tax type of benefits that you get just from being married, they tend to think that that's the only benefit that men get from marriage, and it's not. It's one of them, but there actually are other ones, including the way that your other people in business and whatever treat you, perceive you, especially around the world and whatever.
That's
Like, there's a
exactly
lot
right.
of benefits. There really are. So. And that's why married men bounce back. And that's why married men, we look at it, especially when you're like a nobody or like you're in just, the average population, like the other 90%. And you're looking at the Jeff Bezos or the Rihannas or whoever, right? And all the massive money that they're dealing in, not realizing that to them, that's 10% of their income or that's 20% of their income. That ain't no thing to them, right? And that's why they're willing to get married in a year or two, because they're not hurting from it. We're hurting from it, evaluating it like we're them. We're not them. We're not in the 1%. We can't compare ourselves to them, right? And the reason why they're getting married is the same way that people who have been in successful marriages that fell apart get married again, right? Because again, you actually are more successful in a marriage than you are if you're not. And again, you might get a little bit of a hurt initially, a little bit of a dip in comparison to your counterparts, but then you are going to surpass them again. Even if you never get married again, you will surpass them because, again, that benefit that you got is in all factors and it keeps you more successful. That's what it is.
Go ahead, Deuce. I had a question all around. Go ahead, Deuce.
That's great. That's why I see you smiled over there because as soon as I broke up with my ex-wife, I shot off like this.
I was about to say, I think what she just said was kind of spitting facts. There's been a very rare percentage of ladies that have shot off after separating.
I shot off.
And also, like, I
No,
really
that's
like
what I'm saying. There's been a very rare percentage of ladies that have shot off after, the divorce and the separation and everything. And, sometimes that's also with having a kid and getting, minimal amount of child support and you having to do the extra.
Even if she doesn't have
child.
custody, she doesn't get that benefit. Even if she doesn't have custody of her kids, even if he does, he still gets the benefit. She doesn't, because the only way she's going to get that benefit back is to be in a happy, successful marriage. That's the only way she gets the 40% bump. So,
well, and Ruby, I also wanted to say, I do actually think what you said also applies to regular people too, because so my dad and biological mom, they were married for 10 years and my dad took a big financial hit. He had to sell his 1967 Mustang in beautiful condition to get the house out of foreclosure. And my dad took a nasty financial hit. He met my stepmom like a couple of months later, and then they got married like a year later. And now they are like super financially stable. My dad's got like a good retirement. Like my father even rebounded. And my dad's like kind of like he's a truck driver. He's kind of like an average Joe. So I think even what you said also.
I ain't gonna lie. That's like hold on. I think that sounds like an investment. If all I got to do is just sell one vehicle and then get back on the game, I'm good. Versus guys.
She let the house.
Hold on. Versus guys that sleep in their car. I'm the regular guy. I'm the regular guy here. You know what I'm saying? Versus guys sleeping in their car, guys losing their license, guys have to walk or ride bikes to back and forth miles and miles. These are all stories I heard on my end where the woman put the guy on child support knowing daggone well he can't afford it. Whether it's we set a percentage, right? So we'll just say whether it's he making $500 a week, but they taking $300 out of that check, and he got to sit there and make ends meet per every week, right? That's the regular guy. I don't care. I get the point about the Jeff Bezos and anything else. That's a tax break. The higher Apple line. Shout out to Zara, and I apologize, I'm screwing up your name. She said, "Hey, laughing out loud, it's the 5%." We are not the 5%. So us regular smuggler guys, when we get hit with women that's either being deceiving, manipulating, or just point blank, we are lovey-dovey one way because we're not the same person we were before, and the relationship breaks off, and we have a child. That's a whole separate issue. We has nothing to do with each other no more. It's about the child. So let's child. If I don't do no long story. If I can't afford that child the way you wanted to, and all I can do is provide my time for that child, leave child support out of it. Don't put my name on nothing.
My father would disagree.
Gentlemen,
Well, here's the thing. Oh man. So
Go ahead, Deuce. We'll let you go, Friction. Go ahead, Deuce.
That was going to ask another question, but like, all right, so back to the whole thing about paternity fraud. You find out the kid is not yours. Do you stay in the kid's life or not?
Good question. Good question. My personal experience, no.
Depending on the age.
That's a good one. Depend on age and depend on how long you was already invested.
Yeah.
Nah, ain't no depend on nothing. I'm out.
So you've been in this situation
But
for
what if
10
you've gotten
years.
attached to
Find
that
out
baby?
I heard what I said. I said what I said.
There you go,
No,
man.
I promise you wouldn't be like that. I've known several people
my dad's
that,
like
that said that
super-
same
I ain't
thing,
one of them.
and when they found out that child wasn't theirs, they have so much time invested into it, and they're older now, and yeah, they absolutely would 100% not walk out of that child's life.
Friction. Let's I got you, Deuce. Let's challenge that argument for a second, right? So again, if the mother is a demon on wheels and she put him on child support, and we find out that, hey, you know what, the kid ain't mine, the paperwork is done, all the red tape is untangled, I'm good now, and I'm free. I could do the 2-step in my own apartment, butt naked, all the good stuff. Why would that guy still invest time with a child that's been lied on to him, that's not his child, and knowing if he still go back bonded to that child, guess who's also attached to that same demon?
Well, hold up.
You only do that for a certain amount of time. I mean, like, if you have so much time invested into a child, like,
We'll say
I
5
have
years
seen cases
from birth up to 8, and then I find out me and you don't have a kid anymore, but you the demon. So why would I still put time into that child when I find out that you lied on paternity, onto me, onto the family?
First of all, I don't lie on paternity.
We're giving a scenario. Hold on, we're giving a scenario.
Okay.
We're giving a scenario. So again, let's take that picture again. A general statement overall for everybody.
And
we're gonna tackle this. If a guy is with a woman, married or not, paying everything he's supposed to, put all his
you just invested time. I'm sorry, you just invested time. You don't invest money.
We're gonna try this question one more time. If that man is with that woman, girlfriend, fiance, or married, and come to find out after 8 years that that child is not mine, and we get all the tape clear, so that means I'm not paying child support no more. There's no legal ramifications for custody. Why would that quote unquote father that time spend the time with the child when he found out he's no more biological related to that child? Because that woman was the demon from the first place. Does not consider more headaches than what it's worth. Shouldn't that man cut his ties and keep it moving? And we'll go with Friction.
Yes.
I would say that there are certain men that are going to cut their ties, and that might be I mean, to be honest with you, when you really think about it, that'd probably be the fucking best and smartest thing to do. Cut your ties and fucking move on, because it's going to just drag you down in your next relationship. You investing some time in some kid that's really not yours, that you put all this time into. I mean, it's really going to just drag down your next relationship. Just saying. But at the same time, there are some people out there that you invest that much time into a child, it's really hard to turn your back on them. And it's more about love at that point. Like, you might hate that bitch, but you might love that child. And you see what that child might be struggling through, being with that fucking psycho demon, that you want to help that child and make sure that you're a mentor for it, or for them. I'm sorry, not it. I'm going to tell you this transgender shit. I can't even fucking, but I mean, there are people out there, and I know them that, would invest so much time into a child that, later on they found out wasn't theirs. And you're so invested in them, and you realize the shitty situation that they're going to be in if they just get stuck with their mama, because their mom might be some trifling ass hoe that just goes around and screws every man on the block, or just get a little bit of dope or something. You know what I mean?
All right. So,
And you might
Forsake your mama.
you want to
All
guide
right.
that child in a better direction, and that's the only way that you can, is by staying, in some direct contact to them.
But
All
I
right,
don't want
Dane?
that. I'm out.
Dane,
All right.
your thoughts, sir?
All right. So this is what I feel about it. Two things. Number one, I got a 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. If all of a sudden, we found out they weren't mine, they're my boys, they're my sons, So what happened to me, in order for, because I can see it both ways, but those are my boys. And I would say I'm adopting them immediately because they're my boys. I have invested. I want to make sure I'm 100% invested in my 2 sons right now. So yes, I would be like, we need to go do everything, adopt it that way. That protects me if the other part of it happens where you get with another dude and you like, well, you ain't the daddy anyway, so you gone. I got my new man, so you just gonna get pushed out of the situation. So if I was gonna stay and I found out my kid wanted me to stay, and when I found out my sons wasn't mine, I would say we going. I'm adopting them right now, so it ain't even gonna be none of that issue going down the line. But if you don't do that, I can understand why a dude would leave, because I've been in situations, because I'm in a situation when my wife now is my second wife, and I had a stepson when I was with my first wife, and then we broke up, and I still tried to be in the life, and then she got a new dude and was like, they ain't really a role for you, because his dad was still in the picture, and she's got her new dude. She was like, there's not really a role for you that doesn't make things complicated all around. So you kind of got to fall back, and I had to fall back, So I'd have to just like make sure I protect myself and my feelings and my heart in the situation if I was going to stay.
Exactly.
Fair
I
enough.
think you bring up a lot of good points.
Hold on, let Inky give thought. Inky, your thoughts on the matter?
I dealt with this situation very close to this, where 2 of the 4 were supposed to be his, and during the divorce proceedings, he found out that they weren't his. And
How did he?
Pardon me?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And so, he pled up and down that they were, and when it came down to it and he found out that they weren't, he was just utterly heartbroken, because he raised them as his, and one is 7 and one is 6 or 5.5. Yeah. So it was devastating for him.
Did he stay in a life, or did he go?
And she was one of them really crazy psycho ones, and she packed him up and moved. And that's, he was like, well, if we're going to get divorced, like I want a DNA test. And she packed up and moved across the country to, the East Coast. No, she moved over to the East Coast. And then, he was like, well, to get the divorce, they had to get, for child support and stuff, the mandatory DNA test. And come to find out they weren't his. And he's just devastated.
I think if a man decides to still be in the child's life after finding out all that stuff, that is an act of true selflessness. And I think it just kind of depends on really the
Some would
individual
think
man.
he's very naive and delusional. Sandra's like, why waste your time?
No, you didn't let me finish. I
Go ahead.
wouldn't blame a man for leaving. I wouldn't blame a man. I would not, definitely not hold it against the man for leaving. But it takes a certain type of selflessness to be able to take a look at that child and know what could possibly happen to that child, and the disadvantages that that child could have, and the hurt that that child could have, and be able to prioritize that above your own self.
But can you imagine what this gentleman's going through? Like, he's raised them as they're his. He's in love with these kids, and now he doesn't even have rights to these babies that he's raised as his own for the last 7 years.
And that's why I say, like, I definitely would not blame a man for leaving. I like that. I don't want people to confuse that. I would not blame a man if he decided to cut ties in that situation. I wouldn't at all. What I say is it does come down to, I guess, a person's own selflessness that they have, because it wouldn't be wrong for him to leave. It wouldn't be wrong for him to leave and say, you know what, screw this. But like,
I think he's a brave, strong
choose,
man for leaving.
huh?
I think it's a brave, strong man that leaves. I think it's a sucker that stays.
Well, hold on.
I
So
don't think so.
I'm just
Because
being an asshole.
that child didn't do nothing to you. The child didn't hurt you. That child didn't lie to you. That child didn't do nothing to you. So, like, you might think
But
it
that
takes a
child
brave,
will.
strong man to leave a demon, but that also kind of takes a pretty heartless person to take it out on a child that did absolutely nothing to you. That was the mother, that was the kid.
Yeah.
And who's the one that pays the
That's
consequences for that? That's why I said it takes a certain type of selflessness of a man to be able to do that, which actually you just demonstrated in your statement that most men don't have that kind of selflessness.
I didn't demonstrate none of that. I didn't say that. I was playing. That's for one. And for two, I actually disagree with you. I disagree. Like, I think
That kid's not going to eat. That kid's not going to be the one that faces the consequences more than anyone.
That kid, more times than not, that kid is going to go searching for their real father, and then that kid is going to be beholden to their biological father over you, no matter what you did for that child. So you're only going to end up wasting your time.
That kid's going to search for their biological father when they're an adult.
That's not true. I used to work for a counseling center for crazy teens. That is not a fact.
The adult will search for their biological possibly, but 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they're not going to be searching for anybody. They're going to
no.
Especially if they're going to stay, they're going to be happy they get to maintain the relationship that they've had for the 8 years. And then, like I said, they may be curious. You know, I was raised with a stepdad, and my biological father wasn't a part of my life. When I got older, I got curious because, health issues. I'm like, did he die of diabetes? Did he have cancer? They started asking me questions when I was joining the military. I'm like, I really don't even know. If there's a history of this, that, and the other in my family. So I just wanted to know. That started off like that, but then it turned into something else. But like I said, if
did you establish a relationship with your biological father?
Well, he had passed away before when I got his information. So I did, but I established a relationship with my sisters, his children. So It's just one of those things. So, but I wouldn't have been holding. My dad is my dad. Like, I got a relative who married a woman with a kid, was in his life since she was 2 years old, and he still had a biological dad, but he raised it. If you ask who's her dad, she says,
No, I understand that. I understand.
The legally stepdad is the dad.
Yeah, but see now we're talking about something different. Now. If a stepdad comes in, that's a whole different story. Versus the guy I am not the father. Shout out to Maury. I am not the father. Like, I am not beholden any responsibility legally otherwise because I assumed something that was not true, which is a lie. Ruby said she come back. Her computer froze. Let me read you some of the comments. Appreciate you guys. If you do, hold on.
No, let me address her real quick.
No.
He's got to do his gray pill thing.
No. You came late so many times. You haven't been a minute. No. We earn credit here. Marcus, shout out to Marcus. Marcus says, notice how if the guy who's the sucker decides to have some self-respect, self-worth, yet people have the nerve and the gall to shame him and physically make him stay home. Shout out to Marcus. Either man, well, hold on, because he added something in there, so he was tight. He said, notice how the independent woman mantra of feminist mentality goes out the window. Even got a window emoji, laughing my butt off. Shout out to Either Man Williams. Either Man Williams says the mother hurt the child, not the man.
Not the father.
Gunshots. Shout out to E-Man, and we'll get back to Deuce. Either Man says stepdad are different because they choose that. Very, very good. Deuce?
No, it's accountability, right? Because you can't hold a man accountable saying you're hurting the child. The mother's 100% accountable here. This man has nothing to do with it. If he finds out that you're not biologically your kid's kid, he has the choice to leave or what's the name. He should not be morally, ethically, financially, legally held responsible to be responsible for somebody else's child. That was a decision on the mother. All the accountability is on the mother. So it's on the mother now to repair whatever's wrong with that child, which is her going to find the biological father, hold him responsible, and try to make him a part of that child's life, or take accountability for her actions and say, hey, listen, I was out there in the streets doing stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing, and you are a byproduct of that. Make your apologies or not, it's whatever, but the accountability is on the woman. That man can freely skate with no what's the name. So no matter what, he is not punishing the child. He's protecting himself. And I am sorry. Yes, if you want to call it selfless, I call it a
bullshit.
sucker.
You gotta think about whatever you stick
All right,
your shit into.
Also,
like,
time out.
You have to be accountable for that.
Time out. Also, time out. Let's
not
try to
your
refrain.
kid.
I'll let y'all finish, but let's refrain from the profanity, okay? And jealous.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
I'm sorry. This
and
is my
that's
first
why
time
I'm
on here,
saying
Great
No,
Pill.
you're fine, Freaking. You're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You have to be
Sandra's-
accountable for whatever you put inside somebody. You have to be accountable for that. You have to think about that because you're thinking like a man. You're thinking with that down there instead of what's up here. And if you were thinking about what's up here, then maybe you would think about sticking that into somebody that's random and, possibly creating a freaking child.
But if the child's not yours,
but
what's the
you have
problem?
to take
Are you
accountability
high?
for your actions. You can't just go and stick it into whatever you want.
So I was actually
Even if
gonna
she's
say
willing.
that
All right,
nobody,
lots of-
I said in my earlier statement
sticking
that
it in there. Hold on, Saj, I'll let you get this. Speaking of sticking it in there.
For all your Spanish watchers and viewers, Telemundo, Univision, Galavisión. Hola.
oh my God. Okay. Well, like what I was saying earlier is I would not judge a man for leaving because you're right. He is not morally obligated. He's not financially obligated. He's not obligated to do anything to take care of a child if he finds out that that child wasn't his. But what I am saying is that if you do choose to still stay in that child's life, because yes, the mom is responsible for screwing that kid over. However, I don't think that kid should really have to deal with the brunt end of everything that the mom did. And I personally, like I said, I have no problem if a guy decides to walk away from that because it's not fair. It's legitimately not fair. The rational side of me knows that's not fair. But I will say that it does say something about your level of selflessness as a man if you choose to stay there and still be a part of that kid's life. I know of a guy who is engaged to the mom. He doesn't even want to marry her, but he literally told me, I'm only staying around until her child turns 18 because I
Are you
cannot do that
serious?
to him. Yeah.
Are you serious? Hold on.
Okay,
How old
listen.
is he?
He's got two
I'm
younger
selfish.
kids with her.
How old is that kid?
But the oldest kid, he's 14.
No, how old's the kid that he said he's gonna stay around till she's 18?
He's 14 right now.
And he just found out that time. He just found out the truth at that time.
No, he always knew that Nathan wasn't his, but he's got two younger kids with this girl. But still, though, he said
So
he's like, I'm
how's the
gonna go
relationship
with her.
how's the relationship? Because you say he still want to get married to her. So how good is the relationship between him and the child's mother?
Like it's they. I don't think that they've got a very good relationship. But Nathan,
He still want to marry her?
This is for me. I think he just gave her a ring to kind of shut her up a little bit, if I'm being completely honest. But he doesn't want to leave Nathan because he's like, you know what? That kid has had everybody run out on him, and I don't want to be added to that list because he is a great kid, and he chooses to stay around and stay in Nathan's life, and continue to actually put up with being in a miserable relationship, which I'm not saying anybody should do. But I do think that is a very selfless thing to do. Fine.
You're quoting the wrong cat with that one.
I don't know.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm just saying.
I'm selfish. I'm just gonna say it right now.
I agree.
I'm selfish.
I'm not saying that every man should do it. The question was, what would I personally do? Do I think that what I should do is something to be the law of the land, or should men get penalized or get like chastised if they don't want to do it? No. I feel like this. If you learn that, you do what it's in your heart to do. If it's in your heart to be like, you know what, I can't do it because I don't want the headache that may come along down the line with this. Bounce. If you can say, you know what, these kids mean more to me than any kind of like issues that may come up down the line. So I'm a rock, but I'm gonna do some things to protect myself. Like I said, you need to adopt them kids so you can't get kicked out of this situation. If you want to do it, you got to be 10 toes. You can't just be like, I'm in
I
it.
appreciate that, man. That shows some hope. And you know, just to think that somebody would even consider that, even if it's not an option that you would choose, like, you know, that is
Hold on now,
some
but like he's
wholehearted.
giving this is what I'm saying. People going over the details of Dame's saying. He said, hey, protect yourself. There's levels to this now. Not like the guy that Sandra was saying, like, yo, the woman is a demon, but I'm gonna still marry him anyway. There's troubles between the kid. This like it got to be a conversation. It got to be something on paper. It got to be some kind of.
If they're a demon, you don't marry them. If you know it, you don't go into.
Some people get seduced by demons. Friction. It's a thing out there.
Well, I mean, what kind of demons do they need to be? Like little dominatrix demons, and they're like little submissive type.
All the above. Because to me personally, if a guy, if that type of woman that Sandra explained, like just a little bit of it, that sounds like a lot. I don't suggest any guy to go out their way just because of that kid. Like she's a headache. Well, I'm gonna marry her. That doesn't make any sense. I'm just gonna marry her just to shut her up.
No, he gave her a ring.
I agree. That makes no sense at all. No
they're
sense
engaged,
at all.
but they're not married. I don't think he's ever. I firmly don't believe he's going to marry her. I think he proposed to her literally just to kind of like shut her up for a couple years.
but you know,
or
it's
other
gonna be
one of them disabled. Just curious.
It doesn't matter, but it's still going to be a headache up and down, because even if he did that, just shut her up, and then down the line, right, she's going to be waiting and more animosity going to build up. Then that's going to be another argument, another headache. So again, my suggestion, I'm not putting it on him, so I'm not speaking on him, I'm just saying for guys overall, why even keep continuing that little ongoing cycle? Because if you're saying it just for the kid, I'm leaning to a little bit. Dame said, like, hey, if you're going to go all in, but protect yourself. But also, I will give another solution. I will also give another solution to this. There's a thing called big brothers out there. Hey, you know what? Still reach out just to the kid, but I have a understanding, like, hey, me and your mom is just friends. Me and your mom is not like that no more. Now, if that mom decided to leave out a whole nother state, clearly there's nothing you can do about it. But if the kid is in town, the kid is in the area, hey, you're more than welcome. You said 14. Teens run all over the place. Teens could be going over the house on the weekends. 3 more years, be like 17, 18. They're pretty much legal in a few more years. So that kid can get, you know what? Legally, I'm not obligated to live in mom's house no more, but you've been dad my whole life. So why not? You know what I'm saying?
I think that's what he's waiting for. I truly think that that's honestly what he's
Does he
waiting
take
for.
care of his own stuff, like financially? Like, does he have his own place and all that stuff, or they live together?
Yeah. Like, so, he's.
No, I don't want to get extra detail. I just want to get the basics. Hold on, because again, digital footprint's a real thing. So just the basics. Does he have his own place? Does he have a job? Does he has a car of his own, or they live together?
They live together. He works construction. He's stable.
Okay.
Man, I know his name and his job. I just want to say you're telling too much.
You're good. Ruby, have any thoughts?
Ruby,
Yeah.
Characteristically quiet. I was waiting to see what you had to say.
I'll give her a minute. Inky, do you have anything to say before Ruby shares her thoughts? Inky?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ruby.
All right. So I have a few things to say. I think adults these days are so selfish and so self-centered, and it's no wonder why Western society is going to hell in a handbasket. I think a lot of people don't know how like other societies outside of the Western world work. So like they don't know, for example, that there are parts in Asia where like when the family like separates, right, like a husband and wife and their kids, when they like divorce, because divorce is allowed, whoever takes custody of the kids is now the kid's parent, and whoever didn't has lost their kids. Like those aren't your kids anymore. And when you marry someone new, that person now becomes their new parent. Like literally their new. You don't talk to the biological ones, because parents, like we're putting all this emphasis like on the biology, right? But like your parenting is not about the biology, right? Like maybe that would be your initial reason for investment, right? Is your belief of biology one way or the other. But parenting has nothing to do with biology. Kids don't know that they're biologically related to you or nothing, and they don't care, right? And really, every day that you're loving them and whatever and investing in them, it's not because you're like, oh, I smell your biology and it smells like mine, right? Like, no, it's an investment that you've made into this child that turns into a deep kind of like unabiding, unshakable, unquenchable love. So, these kids are not adults, they're children, and they attach to adults and guardians in their lives like nobody's business. They don't care about biology. They don't understand any of your little adult problems and whatever. And the kinds of trauma of an abandonment, whatever that happens to these kids, is not going to be assuaged because 25 years later, you're going to explain to them why it is that you abandoned them or whatever. Like it doesn't fix the damage, right? It doesn't fix the damage at all. And so I think what we need to do, because I don't know why no one sees it this way, but no, you are absolutely punishing the child because the mama ain't shit. And the thing is, we should absolutely be able to punish the mothers. In fact, I definitely think that the system needs to change. The rules need to change because there's no way that the mother should not be severely penalized for paternity fraud, should not be severely penalized for, like, let's say it really is the father, and like biology's been determined. Now you want to play with their ability to see their kids or, stuff like that, play with visitation and whatever. Like, I think those mothers should be severely penalized. And the reason why, I will just tell you, sorry, it's not because I care about men so deeply, it's because I care about kids so deeply. And those children require both of their parents. Those children require that their parents care about them. Kids don't care how much bills you pay. They don't care if it's fair. They don't care about none of that. They care about how many times they get to see you, how many times you look them in the eyes and say, I love you, how many times you show up to their plays and whatever the hell. It's not about anything else for the kids. And the kinds of trauma that have happened. I mean, the fact that the majority of the Western world seems to be so damaged, a lot of it has to do with early childhood. And
Preach it, girl.
We keep missing the children in these discussions. Like, we just keep missing it. And so I have to bring it up because while it's like, yeah, that sucks for the dad to find out that this child that you've loved for 7 years is not your kid. Yeah, that sucks. And that woman should be penalized, right? But like, it's like almost like the men who have not experienced that have no foresight and they have like no wisdom to understand that you love that kid and you bleed for that kid and your heart is attached to that kid. And trust me, you losing that kid, someone taking that kid now away from you because you have no biological attachment, is not going to be okay with you. And you will be damaged forever if you were to lose your connection with your kid, because that is your kid. Like, make no mistake about it, biology or not, that's your kid. And that's what you see with invested step parents, is that's their kid. Like, even if both the parents are the biological parents are alive and in the kid's life, the step parent who's been there to raise you since you were 2, 3, 4 is as invested in you as your biological parents, right? Because they love, like, you're their kid. So, these, and like, it really pisses me off when I hear like mothers do stuff like, oh, well, I broke up with the stepfather after 20 years or after, 12 years. And now I'm taking the kid away from the father. Are you out of your mind? You disgusting piece of trash. Like, you don't take kids away from their father. And he's not their father because of biology or because of proximity to your relationship with him, right? It's a father because he's been raising that kid as their father for however many years, like so many years, since they were young in their formative years. And if you don't care about your kids, then fine, don't care about your kids. Cool, I guess. I'm talking to women now who know for sure this is biologically their child. But you should be able to be severely, and I mean severely, penalized for playing with your kids' lives. And for the men who walk away, I can understand you taking a break. You need a minute. You need some therapy and a minute to recover, because you don't want to treat your kid like trash, because you don't want to blame your kid because it's not your kid's fault. I get that. But like, the stories that I hear where men walk away from their own biological children because they find out one of those kids is not there, so they just walk away from the whole situation. Like, the other biological children aren't theirs. Or like the fact that they didn't raise these kids for 10, 12, 15 years, whatever. Like, the damage, the amount of your daughters on a pole, and just because they're not biologically yours, guess what? They're yours in every other way. And so the biology is not the thing. That's not why they call you daddy. That's not why, you know, they look for you and want to make you proud and whatever. And it just makes me so sickened and so sad that as adults, both men and women are so selfish and self-absorbed in these conversations that the kids, which is the only thing that's important in these discussions, just get entirely lost and dismissed and trampled on. And who cares? It just really pisses me off. So I guess I'm gonna have to leave it at that because it actually makes me like actually angry inside. So
fair enough, because that's what's going to be my leading question is should it should be charges filed against them, because from what I was listening to with Coach Greg Adams is like it's very fickle that they can get charges on them, and like because
So
I think you mentioned
you want to
about
hear a
the
2-second experience of something that actually where somebody did get charged?
sure you can calm down. I don't
So
see forehead tonight. You can calm down. All I see is forehead.
there you go. We
There you
see your
go.
face now. Congratulations.
I'm outside and I'm like out in my fucking garage with my dusty ass Trans Am and whatever. So I actually used to work for a lawyer though. Probably 20 years ago now. I was 14 at the time, and she actually ended up having to pay child support back to her husband that paid child support to her. Like, she was crazy. She had one of those like little My Little
Payback or
Pony.
credit back? Payback or credit
No,
back?
like he was in arrears, and he ended up having. They pulled it all out of you know, the IRS pulled it out when he got his taxes back, and that had happened twice over 2 years. And when I was working for her, she ended up going through a bunch of legal stuff with her son, and because like, and this is weird, but like they were sleeping in the same bed, and it was kind of like because the kid was, I think, emotionally damaged, and you know, he was always scared. Like anytime that I ever slept over there because we had work the next morning, like he always acted like he was scared, but he would run to his mom's bed, and she ended up getting charged because out in California, in San Francisco area, because we were like literally 5 miles from San Francisco, it's illegal for or at the time it was illegal for a parent to have a child in their bed or whatever, and it became like child endangerment issues, and she ended up having to pay him back 2 years worth of child support.
Okay, I'm asking again because was it pay back or was it credit back? Because sometimes with child support is, let's say the guy is paying back, because you mentioned the W-2.
No, because he got custody of the child after that.
So was she paying? So okay, so he got credit back.
She had to physically pay him back.
Okay, because there's a difference to that too. Because in situations that I've seen, the guy is paying something, like, for example, when it's time for taxes and you're in arrears, they take that. And then when you find out the child's yours, you get credit back your own money. So that's why I was saying there's a difference between credit back and paying. So when he had custody, was she able to pay child support, or did the court didn't push that?
No, she had custody of the child when he.
No, I'm saying when he had custody, because you said he got custody.
He ended up getting custody afterwards.
Okay, so when he got
she was paying him child support on top of the money that he had paid her over the past 2 years. It was taken from the IRS.
Like a win to me.
Sound like
cool. Sound like a win to me. Sound like a win.
Yeah.
Bravo! Shout out to him.
But at the same time, I mean, like, some people are just shitty. Like in my situation, you guys have kind of touched on every little bit of situation that I've ever experience with my child myself. Like, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and it was at about, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years, that I decided that I was done going out of my way constantly to try and get her to have a relationship with her biological donor. I went out of my way 30 minutes, an hour and a half sometimes, just so my child could come home bruised and bitten to death, and basically told me that she was neglected outside for 30 minutes at a time without an adult when she was 2 years old. And I decided at that point, I'm not bringing her out of my way to you anymore. If you want to be a part of your daughter's life, you can come out of your way. You can do something for her, because I've provided for her for the 2 years all the way up to I did have a boyfriend that I had, in the middle of my pregnancy I got with, and I moved out to Missouri from California, even though I got pregnant in Georgia. And that was one of those guys that like kind of stepped in, and it was actually like, man, I want to be that stepfather role. I want to be somebody that is there for this child. And he freaking took all the pictures and did all this lame gay shit. And then when I had her and I was actually working 12 hours a day, he would be neglecting her, and I would hear my neighbors constantly complaining that she's inside crying while he is outside on the phone with his friends from other states. And it became a pathetic excuse, and I had to leave him. And I came out here back to Georgia where my mom was. I met an amazing guy. He's in a wheelchair, and there are certain things that he may not have been able to show her physically, but he's always been there for her. And that ever since I've been with him, her biological father has done absolutely nothing. And because his mother works at the hospital nearby, he's even claimed when we ran into him, oh yeah, that he's tried to reach out. He's tried to be a part of her life ever since I told him that you need to do the reaching out. You need to be the one that actually does something. And he doesn't do shit. And there's a lot of men like that. A lot of them. And those are the people that I feel like, what you did when you got into that situation. And
hold on, Friction.
You should have some responsibility.
Friction, are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Are you hear me?
Hey,
okay.
Look, can you hear me? Look,
yeah.
Hey, I'm actually, my phone is at 1%.
Okay, that's fine. We're closing anyway. We're doing closing thoughts. So thank you.
If I accidentally do close out before, or like I'm plugged in, as you can see right there.
Okay, we're doing you're good. We're doing
if I do close out, thank you for having me on. And I appreciate you just taking an extra,
no problem.
And
let me get to the comments real quick. So shout out to Marcus. Marcus said, dang, all these F-bombs cut so deep in his live stream. Speaking of pay, come to show support by cash. Yeah, Marcus. Well, that would be my closing thought. So we'll get to that later. But I want to hear everybody's, knowledge that they bring to the table. So I appreciate Marcus for interjecting that, one of my good minds. So yeah. So final thoughts. Dane, one was at 1%. Gave her insight on her past relationship versus the new relationship. A lot of information there. Dane was froze, so he stepped out. So he was pretty much in the chat at this point. We'll do final thoughts. So Inky, Deuce, and Ruby. Inky, final thoughts on the paternity frauds and anything else you heard.
As far as the paternity fraud, I think that them women are very shady. And I think that there should be mandatory DNA testing. And I mean, I think that blood test should be taken at the time of any type of signature, even being put on the birth certificate at that time, only because it helps negate from these issues further down the line like they are now. There is some states, California is one of those states, that even if you are not the father and you have been raising that child, or you're on the birth certificate, you are responsible for child support, which I think is ridiculous. Not that I don't support moms, but I don't think moms should take advantage of someone that way. I mean, we as women have a duty to represent women. And when women misbehave that way and just act shady, it's just, it makes us look bad. And we're representing as a whole. So how can men have faith and trust in us to hold that ground if we're not doing our due diligence and, you know, being upright, stand-up women?
I agree, Inky. It was a woman, I won't say similar situation, but just on representing herself as women overall and a mother. This woman has 3 children. Two of them is by a different guy, and he was there for the time being for like years. But according to her, again, that's why I was combating. Like every time when I hear in these spaces, one thing I hear a collectively of others. So it's always a tit for tat in these scenarios. But in this scenario, she stayed in the relationship for 10, 13 years, and he was a no good father, a no good boyfriend, a no good spouse, but she stayed in the relationship. So now when she got out and moved on 3 years later, supposedly got herself together, but she took that trauma and that pain onto somebody else, and she can't figure out what she want to do. So now it's like a hurt people are hurt mentality.
Mm-hmm.
She haven't still figured herself out. You're a grown woman, have 3 children by separate fathers. Focus on yourself. But now here's everybody across the board said honesty, right? So if your intent is to get with a guy, I get it. If you like some guy and you got attracted with them, that's fine. You know, boink them if you need that time, but have that conversation. Like, look, this is what the relationship is. It's a sexual relationship, friends with benefits, but here's the parameters: protection, casually. Are we just meet up once a week, once a month? You got to have that conversation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come in there up, down, left, right, oh, I don't know what to do with myself, I got so many issues, and put so many excuses on top of excuses, all you're doing is carrying on that same trauma, that same pain you had with the last relationship, that you were stuck on stupid with the last guy. You didn't wake up from it. Now you woke up to a degree, you moved on. Now you carrying that to somebody else. That guy, the quote unquote good guy, he's gonna see you and he go like, look, he might have 2 choices. Okay, I'm gonna get out, but now I'm gonna be more cautious of all women, which he should, or you're gonna put that same drama. Okay, well, this is all women, and that's not cool. So a lot of women need to be very careful how they move. You knew in this fraud situation, we all put on, oh man, you know who you're sticking it to? Yes, and that woman know who stuck their crap inside her. We know who that particular woman knew who busted one inside her. So I mean, I heard everything about the whole 3-week thing. I personally, it's out of my mind of that one. Like, yo, I don't care at this point. When you went to the doctor and you filed for whatever, they ask you for your information. Hey, who's the father? What's the
She could have very easily said, I don't know.
Exactly.
She didn't have to put a name.
Exactly. And that's what I was leading to, but I was just waiting for the more conversation to come out.
Yep.
None of that was brought up there. So again, you go apply for welfare.
You
haven't, exactly. If you haven't, you know, a friend of a family member that went through it, and they got all the stories with the food. I literally heard a woman say, hey, well, I'm not going to use my food stamp. You know what? And this is to the child. You're of age, so I'm going to let you go apply. Just put somebody else's name on there. I heard a woman say that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to put it on all women. This is what all women do. But there are women out there like that. That's all about getting the system to get little chump change, whether it's $30 here, whatever they give you a month, and then try to make it work. You know, you're not living life. You're not. You just on this little weird pendulum and to fall off. So I agree with you, but a lot of women need to focus on themselves the same way we be saying men focus on yourselves. Mm-hmm. Those type of damaged women, especially if you got a baby or 2 and there's more than one father in the mix. If that father's not working out financially, emotionally, mentally for that child, hey, you know what? Cut all ties. Focus on you and mom at the end of the day. So who's the kid stuck with? You. So you got to make do what you got to make do with. But don't. I want to say whore yourself out, but don't put yourself out there on a make a wish, pray to Jesus, let me wish for another man. No, because that's not gonna. It doesn't work like that. Focus on you.
Exactly.
You got married. You got a kid early. Okay, it is what it is. The guy didn't. You knew who the guy was from the beginning. If he wasn't that good guy, you just got to learn how to move him accordingly. Same thing we tell all these men too. Same conversation about the men's side. You knew what you're getting yourself into at this point. You got to learn how to move accordingly. If not, it is what it is at that point. Stop complaining about the situation you're in, because nothing's going to change. You're sitting there screaming at the wall, screaming at the mirror with your homies once a week, drinking, complaining about the chick all day. I mean, have the conversation, bruh. What can we do to make this transition smoother for yourself? Okay, move that way. Sis, what can we do to make that situation smoother? Okay, you say you're going to school, you say you're going to work, you say you take care of kids, you say you take home. Okay, move forward. But don't put that same trauma on somebody else. Don't hurt somebody else because you got screwed over. That's ridiculous.
Exactly. Amen.
Deuce and Ruby. Deuce, got anything? All
Ruby
right.
go. Oh, I'll go first. No matter.
All right.
So on the topic of paternal discrepancy, this is one of those things where it's because when we talk about deadbeat dads and stuff like that, that's completely on the father. Like, if you're a deadbeat dad, that's your kid, you got to raise them. I don't make any bones about that. So for this one, for the ladies are 100% accountable in this one. So it's about accountability. It's accountability for your actions. It's not anybody else's responsibility to take care of your children or fix your mistake. If you're out there sleeping with multiple people, it is your responsibility to find out who your child's father is. It's as simple as that, and make sure that you hold the right person accountable. Anything other than that, you're trash in my book. Straight up and down. Sorry. You could say, because I've in the situations that I know of, it was like, well, they made a decision. She was just trying to make sure her child was taken care of, and she was taken care of, and she made a decision and she moved on, and and then decades later, they don't want to be held that like nobody's gonna hold me accountable. Like nobody can judge me for my life or But there's no accountability there. And then what happens is you created a broken person, right? Because now this person finds out this person is not their father. The person that they thought was their father their entire life is not their father, right? Which raises a whole bunch of other questions. And now you feel like, oh, it was a long time ago. I did what I did. You feel like you have no accountability in that, and you have no responsibility to repair that or make reparations. You know what I'm saying? So like it's nuts, the lack of accountability on this topic. And because there's nobody holding them legally responsible, they feel like they don't have to be responsible, right? Because there's nobody else, there's no outside entity holding them accountable other than God, right? So then everybody wants to say, oh, well, only Jesus could judge me. It's just crazy in the community about like the stuff that I've seen, the conversations that I've had when I've seen this, and I've seen this about like 6 times. It's nuts. So, and that's just how I feel about it. For men, protect yourself at all times. You know what I'm saying? Get DNA tests. Whatever you choose to do for that child, if you find out the child's not yours, whatever you choose to do for that child is on you. Not me. I probably wouldn't do it. And as a father myself, yeah, I was being a little what's the name? Like I love my son. I love my son to death. But the thing I want to talk about when it comes to legacy, right? This is what I want to speak on about with Ruby. Your child blood matters, right? Because when I love my son, not only do I love my son because my child was a product of love. I loved his mother when I created him, right? So my child is an extension of the love that I had for his mother, right? And then also when I look at my son, I see myself because I see my features. I don't think I can have that for a child. If I know he's not mine, what do I see when I look at you? You're just a kid, right? You're a kid that I don't see myself in, right? The only thing I can only see is what I choose to invest in you, right? And stuff like that. I don't got time for that. You know what I'm saying? I know why. I know I love my son. I know why I love my son, and I know the things that matter to me. And to me, blood and legacy matters. So just protect yourself at all times. Don't get caught out there. It's an evil world we live in.
Fair enough. Appreciate you, sir.
Okay, so I'll obviously start by responding to Deuce, obviously, because I don't have the patience to wait all of that. I don't even know how you did that. Like, bro, that's pro star because I just don't have the patience. I would have to respond to you right away. Like, you would, like, just at the end. That was good, though, because now, I wouldn't have listened to anything else you had to say. I just would have been waiting for my turn to respond. So thank you for saying everything else first. No, but for real, I'm going to say this. People think one thing until they're in that situation. The reason why I'll say that is, for example, here's a way that women can relate to men in this scenario, because it actually sadly happens way more than you think it does. So you go in, you created this baby with love with your wife or girlfriend, whatever, right? So y'all you go through 46 hours of intensive labor and you finally got the baby. Yes, woo! Okay, great. And then your baby needs a little, I don't know, one of those liver treatment things because it's a little jaundiced or whatever, right? Okay, they bring the baby back to you. All is well. Y'all take this baby home. And then your kid gets to like the age of 12. all the things you said. You see yourself in the kid, you love the kid, you see so many little quirks and stuff, and you even see your parents, grandparents, fathers, whoever inside of this kid that you love so much. And then the kid gets to 12 and some blood test tells you, wait a minute, they have something genetic that I don't have. Wait, that must not be my kid. But then, wait, you do the further blood testing because this woman says, I swear to God, I've never cheated on you in my life. And then you find out that neither of you are genetically related to your child because you took the wrong kid home. Happens not like once in a million, like it's thousands of times it happens a year. And a few cases get caught relatively early, like in the first few years of the child's life, but a lot of cases do not. What do you think the response is by both the fathers and the mothers once they find out this error has happened? Do you think they go, well, I don't want this kid. This one isn't mine. This one is not my genetics. This one doesn't have my biology. I don't see myself in this kid anymore. So I want the one I'm genetically related to. That doesn't happen ever. They might want to meet the child that they're biologically related to, and vice versa, just like adopted kids kind of want to meet their biological parents, but their child is the one they raised. It's what it is. And the thing is the reason why we know that that's true is because we evolved for it to be like that. And so one of the ways that men know that a child is theirs is because babies look exactly like their fathers in the first year of life. Here's the thing though, if you want to see something, you'll see it. Secondly, more importantly, is people tend to have a type. So if a woman's going to sleep with 5 different guys, she generally tends to have a type. Unfortunately, that means these guys probably look similar enough that if you want to see yourself in the baby, you can see yourself in the baby. But there are other actual things or things that men use to determine paternity. Like, I mean, we evolved these things, right? Like 10,000 years ago, we evolved these things. And babies also evolved things to get dads to invest in them. So for example, mirror neurons firing in their brains from literally from birth will get them to mimic you, right? That makes fathers bond with the baby. There's a lot of different things that make you bond with the baby and see yourself in the baby and feel connected to the baby, right? And unlike women who are bonding with that baby for 9 months before it comes out, right? And their brains have been reforming for 9 months before it comes out, a father's brain only starts reforming once the baby comes out. But it is reforming as soon as they see that baby. If you have no reason to doubt that that's your kid, your brain and your entire worldview has fully formed to be fully invested and to give your life for that kid. And the biology of that kid is not going to change that sensation. It's not going to change those emotions. It's not going to change anything, right? I understand why you wouldn't willingly walk into it, right? Just like I understand anyone who says I wouldn't willingly walk in to be a step parent. I personally wouldn't either. But to say that you would abandon a child that you've invested in, whether it's your stepchild or a child you thought was biologically yours until you found out it wasn't, to say that you would abandon that child, first of all, like I said, I think it's just short-sighted. It's just because you literally can't conceive of it. You're using a part of your brain and a part of your experience that has nothing to do specifically with that. And then until you've experienced it, you can't understand why it is that the very large majority of men in that situation still want to raise their kids, still want to be a part of their kids' lives. And in fact, if anything, their immediate concern switches to, I have to make sure she can't kick me out of my kid's life because that's my kid, DNA or not. And that's why. But beyond that point, I think the issue to me comes down to that there are some women who literally they get told the wrong date because again, it's not an exact science. And then they point out the wrong person because it's the wrong dates. It's the wrong window. It's the wrong whatever. Or, they legitimately thought, oh, this one looks exactly like, we hear that all the time. It looks exactly like this man or that man or whatever. And there's a lot of people who are committing fraud. Fine, right? How do we differentiate between the two? Because that's the problem. This is why the system is never going to penalize these women, because people who are making an honest mistake or who have made a mistake because medical science doesn't have an exact science on this, they're never going to penalize those mothers. They're never going to penalize those women. And they're never going to penalize women to the point where it takes food out of a child's mouth or puts a kid in a bad situation because now the mother has to pay $16,000 back and she can barely put the roof over the head that they have now, right? They're never going to do that. So what I think needs to be a necessary, because it would solve a lot of this, right? Is there needs to be like at a federal level, so it can't be state to state, people can choose, There needs to be a rule that paternity testing is done at birth. I don't care if you're married. I don't care if the woman came in by herself, then that baby needs to get swabbed and the mom needs to get swabbed. It just needs to happen at birth. It has to happen. Before any type of money gets paid, paternity testing has to be done. The thing I disagree with, the thing we were talking about, that coach
Greg
whoever,
Adams.
Thank you. Coach Greg Adams reading the Tennessee thing. The thing that I disagree in that is that they're saying the paternity testing has to be done before you can order child support. I agree with that. What I disagree with, though, is that what they're trying to say is that if you're not genetically related to a child, that you can't put your name on the birth certificate, and therefore you can't pay child support. You can't support your own children that way. And I disagree with that, because I do think that men generally are cognizant adults who can make decisions for themselves. And if they want to claim a child that's genetically not theirs, as long as they're given the information well in advance and given a period of time to think about it before they're locked in, I don't see any reason why we would block men from claiming children that they want to claim. And giving children access to fathers. Now, with that being said, obviously they're trying to make a space for a biological father, but this is why we do the swab right at the beginning. We're doing the swab. That swab is there. Any person can go and compare their genetics to the DNA database. And in fact, I think it should be a thing that every time someone gets swabbed, that's exactly what happens. Because there's a lot of people out there who have kids and have no idea they have kids, because you know what? No one told them. Or because the chick only knew you as hip hop Rabideo or whatever the hell from the club, and she didn't know how to get a hold of you, let you know she's pregnant, whatever it is. So I think what needs to happen is we need to, on a federal level, we need to instill these things where, okay, paternity testing at birth, don't care if you're married or not, A. B, that before anyone gets ordered to pay anything ever, paternity testing, without a doubt, and you can't force someone who is not biologically related to a child, you can't force them to pay child support, and you can't force them to put their name on a birth certificate, but they could choose if they want to. And a mother can't keep a man away from a child that he claims as his, even if the paternity turns out to be false, whatever, because she wants to punish him or whatever. No, men need to have more rights than that. So I think that's what needs to happen. We need to make these changes, like on a federal level, across the board, across the country. But I trust my wife. My husband trusts me, 100% trusts me. And I'm 100% trustworthy. However, I have no problem at all with the idea that every single one of my children would be paternity tested at birth. No problem. Why would I? I'm not cheating on him. There's nothing, there's nothing. It's just for him to know, just like I know for sure this is the baby that slid out of me. He knows that the baby that slid out of me is slid out of his balls, right? I mean, there should be no issues. And if she's trustworthy, she's not going to have an issue with that. And every woman who's fighting against these things
got something to hide.
Exactly.
That should be a red flag right there.
You know what's funny though? Ruby? I'm glad you said that, because when I saw this conversation reacted to Do Better, he said the exact same thing you said. He said he didn't care when he knew. Like, yeah, she said I'm pregnant. He's like, yo, we getting that DNA test. And the reaction you had, your thoughts, was the total opposite of what she said. He said, I'd rather have somebody upset with me for 2 weeks versus me going through some crap for 18 years. 18 years. If she doesn't care, why should I? He's like, I even told her, yo, I'm getting that swab. But
there was a guy that was just sitting in prison for 5 years for back child support on a baby that wasn't his.
That wasn't his.
Deuce said 20
years before they put him in prison. Yeah, no, absolutely.
No. He didn't do 20 years. There was a dude that did 5.
He did 5.
There was a guy that did 5, and then there was another guy that was in prison 20-something years ago when the child was born. He got put on child support for a kid that was conceived and born while he was in prison.
Woo.
And then it was like 18 years later. The kid's like 19 years old or something like that. But he was in jail at the time. He was like, yo, it's impossible. I couldn't have made a kid during this year. Right. I was in jail for 4 years.
Wow. And sorry,
go ahead.
No, I just wanted to respond to someone in the chat. So finish your point, Deuce. Sorry, I thought you were done.
He said, what you responded to?
So Eden Man Williams. Fathers should not have a just generalized opt-out before birth. If the father was present at the time that the baby was conceived, because these two people were together and they decided as a collective they wanted to have the kid, oh well, too bad. However, if you weren't, I think men should have a 21-week opt-out, just like women do. And so your opt-out should be financial in nature. You should have 21 weeks to opt out financially from the time she tells you. Now, overall, or maybe we'll say 18 weeks, because generally by the time women find out, they don't have the whole 21 weeks. But okay. And so the reason why I say that is, first of all, that would make women a lot more gung-ho to not try to hide it from the guy or da-da-da-da-da until it's too late. Right? So he's going to have the exact same amount of time that you have to opt out of this whole thing called parenthood. And he should be able to opt out financially if he chooses, which then gives her the opportunity to make a decision based on his opt out, what she wants to do. Do you want to go forward as a single mother and be responsible for finding eventually a stepfather to help you raise this child, or to find male role models or whatever? Or do you want to opt out now that he's opted out in essence? So I do think that there should be an opt-out period, but not like, oh, the whole 9 months, because I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Second of all, child support is not ridiculous. The fact is that there are many men who do give money, and I'll say even more money than child support can or does order, to take care of their children. They have, they have custody, shared custody, and they take care of their kids. Great. Child support isn't, the whole system was not made for people who willingly take care of their kids, obviously. It was made for people who willingly don't, or who invest a little bit of time, or when they feel like it. I'll slide you 50 when you feel like it, because kids only need to eat when you feel like paying for it, or kids only need this when you feel like it, right? No, that's not what it is. And both parents should be 50% responsible, in my opinion, for the health, well-being, safety, raising, whatever of this kid. And to be honest with you, whoever has full custody of the kid or has the majority custody is always going to be paying more, because that person's going to be paying for their rent or mortgage and all the utilities and a whole bunch of stuff. What men often have to pay for child support is peanuts in comparison to how much it actually costs to have a kid inside your house, with the utilities going up and all the other costs of life going up. It actually is peanuts. And I'm happy that it's not so restrictive that it boots most men out of being able to responsibly pay child support, and still be invested in their kids. And I hate women who play with that and say, well, he doesn't pay the kind of money I want to pay, so you can't see your kid. No. Those women, like I said, these women need to be punished, right? But that doesn't mean the child support system is all wrong. Men should be paying for their children. So
there you go.
It's not wrong. It's antiquated, because when child support was created, it was created because back in the day, a man used to be able to kick a woman out of the house, and then that's why they used to have like boarding houses for like single mothers, for like mothers and stuff like that. And back then, women didn't have jobs, right? You could only be like, you only worked in a factory, you were a seamstress, or you became a prostitute, and you worked in like a boarding house. You lived in like a boarding house or whatever. It was wild. It's like the early 20th century, right? So it's antiquated because now women have options now, so I think for me, child support should just be the addition of what your life would have been without the kid, right? So for instance, if you were paying $800, a month to live in an apartment, and then now a 1-bedroom apartment, but then now you have a kid, you have to have a 2-bedroom apartment. Okay, extra $300, boom, $300 for rent. Now your bill's going up. All right, I shouldn't be having to pay all your whole or every single bill you have or nothing like that. But yes, I should contribute maybe like 40%, 50%. I get that, right? So I think that's how it should be calculated instead of just straight up 17%. Because in New York City, if you work for the city, if you have a city job, you have a government job in New York, 17% pre-tax income automatically. If you make $100,000 a year, you're paying 17,000.
Yeah, but 1% of people make $100,000 a year.
That's not bad, because Maryland was like, I think 24%. And with one child, I got $2,600 a month.
Yeah, but remember, I just want to add this fact in, since you're saying your state versus yours, again, cost of living.
Mm-hmm.
Cost of living. So
they cost of living, but they go off how much the guy makes.
Right. And so if
You
the
can't
guy, the
have.
average person makes $40,000 a year, that means that if we were just to go just based on that, then the average person would be paying $566 a year. That's what people who make $40,000, if we're going by 17%, that's what people who make $40,000 a year would be paying per month. $566. Since we know that there's almost nowhere in the world. No, what do you mean a lot? You know how much a child costs? It's more than $566
I have a child.
a
I have a
month.
child.
Right. So then you know
I'll tell
that
you
it
right
costs
now.
more than $566, right?
It wasn't that expensive. When I had my son, it was not that expensive. Yeah, I was actually surprised. I was like, what's people complaining about? It really didn't make a dent in my
Formula,
pocket.
clothing,
Oh yeah,
It
they
wasn't that
grow
expensive.
like little
medical
weeds.
bills.
They do.
Are
I had
we
to buy
pretending?
school clothes twice this year.
Well,
Right.
I mean, everybody's situation was different. My job. My son was covered under my insurance and stuff like that. I didn't have to come out of pocket for that.
Yeah, so $500 wouldn't be a lot for you, but I'm just saying, cost of living, $500 would be a lot for. Yeah, $500 would be a lot for somebody else. But like, not even
$500 is a lot. I think it's a lot. It's still a lot. I think it's adequate. Actually, I'm not saying this. I don't think $500 is a lot. I think $500 is adequate. I think $500 additional dollars, $500 to $600 a month. I think that's adequate.
Yeah, it's like $6,800 a year versus your $40,000 a year. And let's be real, since we all know that a child, they've calculated how much an average child costs per year, and it's way more. It's not even like double 6,800. It's way more. It's like
I would even dumb that. I would even dumb that. Yeah, I would even dumb that. I would even dumb that down too, because again, if you have, let's just say, if you have like a family dynamic, or even brothers and sisters, sometimes like you're saving money because hey, the hand-me-down clothes, if anybody remember those, or the community that you live in pretty much have these little systems where you can like, hey, I can go to school, I can do lunch, I can do all these little activities. The parents not really even coming out of pocket for that. It's just because of the community that you live in actually contributes all this to your child. So really, only thing you really contribute to for your kid is just a roof over your head. We'll put the food aside.
Have any of you ever been through a divorce with children?
I have been in a divorce. I was one of the children.
Okay, so Deuce will understand this. So what they do is you have her expenses and how much she makes. They have his expenses, how much he makes. And then they take that and then they add those together. And then the mom gets the difference for the baby. So now say for instance, like she doesn't have a high paying job and he does, that's kind of where he ends up paying an extraordinary amount of child. Exactly. Whereas if they were closer together, the support would be less. So it just depends on the amount of expenses and the incomes versus, because the judge is going to order and say, well, if you have your doctorate and she doesn't even have, barely but a high school diploma, you know what I mean? They're going to take that into consideration that she is not ever going to be able to accrue the kind of money that he did.
Yeah, but Inky, wouldn't it be smart to say, and I'll use that same scenario, right? I'm the doctor, you're the hot chick from Wendy's, and right, we had the kid together. So wouldn't it be fair to me, and I'm to make the smart move, say, hey,
it's cheaper to keep her at that point.
No, well, yeah, it is, but at the same time, it's cheaper to keep her. But the mentality of it, that's what I'm saying. With that whole scenario that Sandra gave for the friend, it like. Does the ends justify the means that with the cost? Me, no. So my suggestion for that is like, hey, I'm the doctor, you're the hot chick for Wendy's. Hey, I'd rather just like, you know what? Let's just have something read on pen and paper. Then I'd rather just hit up, since child support is already here. Let me just move forward with something's already agreed upon.
The
you know what I'm saying?
smartest thing a guy could do, okay, is help her go to college, help her get that degree, help her get that potential income available. Listen up, dudes, listen up. Because then she is capable of making that income. And guess what? The child support level goes down.
So when you suggested that time frame do this after the kid get a certain age, or because remember, it might go left before when the kid's in infantry. Because Edelman one time was on a panel, I think it was here, where his suggestion was if he was the breadwinner, which he is, and the wife and they have a kid, he'd rather have at that time, let's say, I think he said from birth up to like 9 or 7, because that's the time the mom and everybody can bond with the child. And then if she want to choose as far as work and stuff, that might be another option down there. So between the birth and up to 9, that might be problematic. So we're saying like get her in school, get her the degrees and everything else from birth, or are we waiting after 9?
No, what I'm trying to get at is if you guys are in a relationship, well, so okay, this is just my way of thinking. If you guys are in a relationship and say one has, their doctorate, right?
Mhm.
And the other one doesn't. As a couple anyway, you should be trying to build each other up. Okay? With that being said, say you have a child and one has a lesser income. Now, someone in chat said, well, why don't you give the kids to the doctor? Well, what if the doctor isn't the nurturing parent? What if they're all about their money and their bread and they're really not there for their child? And now the child is spending all this time in daycare. Is it really getting the mother's love that it needs?
That's
No.
true.
I mean,
So,
single mothers still have their kids in daycare. So see, the problem with that thing, with the whole thing about,
where Deuce, I don't agree with that at all. My kids were homeschooled and went to work with me. I just wouldn't do that. But that's just my way of raising my kids.
right. So the issue because I tried to send my ex-wife back to school, but she wasn't from America. She was from Europe, so her education didn't completely transfer over. So I tried to send her back to school. And she was like, "Oh no," she made excuses or whatever. I have a master's degree, so that whole like you can try that, but then once kids get involved, trial rearing time, it all depends on the ambitions of the individual. And at the same time, once you're the custodial parent, you now can justify not working a higher salary job because you have to take a job that also gives you the ability to raise your child, right? So you might not be able to work full time; you have to work part time, right? So they're not going to factor in her economic potential. Where it's me on the other hand, if I was transitioning careers, even if I was in the middle of transitioning careers and my income was lowered, they're going to go off of the fact that, okay, you have a master's degree. This is your career field. This is the median income for your career field. They're going to charge me. They're going to charge me my potential income, not even what I'm currently owning. They're just going to go be off of it. Somebody in your career field with a master's degree makes this much. They're going to charge me my potential income. They will never calculate her potential income.
Right. I get you. And it sucks because I was a breadwinner and so it can be a lot of conflict there. And I mean, I was just saying, if you guys are in that relationship, always try to build up your partner. So, if it ever does come into that kind of situation, that you're on more of an equal playing ground so you don't get hung. And I know it sounds like having one hand on the doorknob and the other one, on the
It comes down
relationship,
to
but it also helps build equality between both of you two.
Yeah, I'm still stand on this. It still always come back down to, first of all, your intent, because we're going back to the beginning when you first meet the person, which led up to this paternity fraud. It always go back to your intent on both sides. So I'm not favoring one the other, but the conversation is about women that does paternity fraud. So it goes back to the person's intent. Like, hey, if I want to get married, what's the reasons for this? If I want to have a kid, what's the reason for this? If we get divorced, what does this look like? Like those conversations got to be had. As difficult as it is, those conversations got to be had. But I'm gonna read this and get my final thoughts out. Ruby got disconnected, so I was gonna make sure because I don't want to mess up her name. Azaria, I think that's how I pronounced it right. I keep calling her Amazon because that was the original title of her name. But Ruby got disconnected, so she'll be pop back in. If not, that's fine. So appreciate her for coming on through. Don Teasy, I appreciate you. Don Teasy says, I just be
Either
mindful.
Man, Google imputing. I'm sorry, I'm just like because before what's
go ahead.
Google,
go ahead.
Google imputing potential income. That's what that's called. I wouldn't speak about it if I didn't know about it. So you absolutely can. Don't spread misinformation.
There you go. Fair enough. Like that. Shout out to Don Teasy. John Teasy says, just be mindful where you planting your seed. You'll be trying to grow plants in a pot full of exactly. That's my whole basis of everything right there. The foundation. Be careful what you're doing. When you start planting those type of seeds, and you can see a mile away. If you can't, that's on you. Same thing with the chick, with the guy. Like, just be very careful what you do. Some guys a little bit older, like, look, I'm not looking for no kids. She might have adult children already, so you're good. But at the same time, if you could still, put one in there, hey, have that conversation. Azaria says, It's pointless to me. To me, sometimes daughter's father is barely making ends meet, and I closed his case today. Why do I want him broke AF when he's present in her life? And I agree. That's literally my whole point with that too. Like if he's there already, so why would you ask him for money? So my thing is, you're greedy. You're greedy. Either you're spiteful or you're greedy, or you just want to take something from somebody just to again hurt people. That doesn't make any sense with me. She also says go ahead, Mickey. I'm sorry.
Gray Pill, sometimes you don't have a choice in that matter. Like if it's a divorce case, the judge will not allow you to say that. He won't allow you to say, "Oh, I don't want child support."
Oh, fair enough.
If you do it where you're not together as a couple, yeah, you can opt out and just be like, "I don't know who the father is."
Fair enough. Shout out to the Bros Speak podcast. All right, he's new over here. I hope he's subscribed. That helps us a lot. Goal is 2,000. We are not greedy. Texas has cap on children support. Cap on child support in Texas, 9,280. No matter how many children he has. Wow.
Yeah, but the cost of living is lower in Texas, so it's not comparable to other states necessarily, right?
Okay, and I'll even add on to that what Sandra said about Nevada, because I didn't even know nothing about that. So I'm glad she even presented that, because even on the conversation Coach Greg Adams was bringing up, like it really do go back to your state. So if you like, I didn't have the mindset back then, like, hey, let me look into states I want to live in, because I know there's some states that don't even pay taxes. That's one. There's some states like what Sandra said, like, hey, when it comes to the court case with fraud and paternity, they're very highly on that. Some things they will hold a woman accountable for. So shout out to Nevada. But most guys or most people are like, hey, the cost of living a little bit too high, so they won't even sacrifice to even go there. So, but you got to pick and choose your battles per state. But shout out to the passport bros. Low jab. Send these women all to jail. I agree with E-Man also on that one. So if a woman is doing the stuff they're doing and it comes find out that they did it, I don't care if it's 9 years later and the truth comes out, take them to jail. Take them to jail. Let them do that time. Let them think about it. Matter of fact, as much time. Matter of fact, I would add on to this. The much time they put in for the fraud from the time of birth and the father found out 8 years. If it's 8 years, hey, do 8 year jail time. Let them think.
So who's watching the kids?
That's true. I was about to say the father, but he ain't the father no more. But you know what, Ruby, you're right. That sucks. You put me in a moral.
That's why they don't do it, right? It's not because, and this is what I mean. Even if you really hate the parent, I think that you need to punish the women. I do. I agree. But putting them into prison when they often normally it's not just one kid, right? If you're bold and brave and comfortable enough to do all that, you probably have multiple children. Do you know what I mean? So who's watching these kids? Because you have multiple children by multiple baby daddies and probably don't know who half of the baby daddies are. Who's watching them kids for you? The system can't take care of the kids that they have in the system. So then what we're doing is we're dedicating children to the foster care system that 100% breaks children. So that's not really an ideal solution either. But then again, I don't even agree with the idea, just the generalized concept that we should be taking men who are back, they're behind in child support or whatever, and having them lose their licenses or go to prison. Like, it's the dumbest shit. It's a debtor's prison. Debtor's prisons were literally outlawed, and yet you have debtor's prisons for child support. It's insane. It's insane. Right. There's no way that should be legal, right? So.
All right. Fair enough. Shout out to Marcus again. Got to repeat this and echo this. This will be an echo chamber for me. Dang, these F-bombs cut so deep in this live stream. Speaking of pay come on the show, support the Cash App. Yes, everything's up there in the link. I want to say this because I get it. I'm not even really tripping that much, but I have to be petty on this one. I never been on nobody's platform and just start cursing and carry on or just saying the buffoonery. I appreciate Friction to come on, but she had made a catch-22. She said, hey, I'm new to the show. I'm on the platform. That's all fine, Danny, man. But you have a co-host that been on the show. He knew the rules and regulations. Everybody see how I present myself when I come on panels. You've been on panels, never seen me say the F-bomb, say the B-bomb, say the S. You say every letter's out there. Dang, the LGBTQ community would have been proud of you. It was so many letters out there you were saying. So No, ma'am. So I think I might just make a rule. I'm gonna put a Cash App in the back. Anybody want to be throwing out some profanities? Is going in a jar, Inky. It's going in a jar. And again, any money
Did I
not
say
you.
that?
I know you
Oh.
looking like, yeah, me too. No, you're good. You're good, Ruby. Not you.
Like,
You
God
did
damn it.
the
I don't
other-
have Cash App though.
The other night, man, it was going. It was just, everybody's like, they were saying it so much. Every time they said there was an apology rep behind them, like, they don't want me to get no brand deals. They don't want me to get no brand deals. But they knew better. They all knew better. And the only person who didn't use the F-bomb was the person I assumed was going to use the F-bomb was Poppy Blanco. I went back and rewatched that. I was like, Poppy Blanco actually thought before he opened his mouth. Everybody else was dropping them left and right and just like,
I was tripping. I was like, you'd never have that on here.
yeah, I was like, everybody, but they'll say it and they apologize right after, like, oh, my bad. And I was like, they don't want me to get no brand deal. But Black Power, you know, who cares? But yeah, so that might be an implemented rule because we do have high value men on this platform. So I appreciate Marcus. Also, the only person, and also I'm still gonna be petty on this one. I didn't leave the petty train yet. Shout out to Jumby, Brother Jumby. So his new name is Brother Jumby because he was on for the first time. He did use it, but at the same time, he had to explain of his digressions. He said, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and send the Gray Pill Podcast a Cash App anyway. And he did. So the next time, Brother Jumpy, when we go live in a group chat, just for shout out to the pettiness, I'm going to go ahead and make you the sponsor for next Tuesday. So these people can understand and learn, A, what a real brother does when he makes mistakes and shouldn't have to explain himself. B, when he actually said, he don't say the apology, because again, when you say the words, I'm sorry and I apologize, look up the definition. It's a reason for that, okay? Don't say you're sorry and still do it. Don't say you apologize and you still ain't learned your mistake, okay? Words matter.
Oh, Fatty dropped your link. Yeah, you can see because the chat room is going up significantly and how many people are there. Fatty dropped your link just now.
I appreciate you, Fatty. Thank you very, very much. I'm an underdog supporter for other chats too, and Team Fatty is one of them. If it's some shenanigans, I don't really jump on. I'll be in the chat supporting them. But if it's actually a real conversation, I come up for the conversation. No more, no less. I'm gonna send you there, Deuce. So if you want to be there, just for the support the Great Podcast, they have some good stuff over there. It's very entertaining. What else? Shout out to Marcus again. He's asking about the the chick with the 1-bar battery. She left, but don't worry, Marcus. I will make sure them good words and encouragement is sent to her on that space because she needs to know. And just again, back to Petty, I will drop her the Cash App because we don't do that over here. We good Christian folks. I'm sorry, I lied. I can't say they were straight face. Marcus said, notice how the guys who's the sucker decides to have some self-respect and self-worth, yet people have the nerve, the gall, the shame. Yeah, it goes back and forth, and I agree. Shout out to B Love. I appreciate her. So if she's new, I hope she hit the subscribe button. I definitely hope that she hits the like because it helps out a lot. Also, again, for your favorite content.
What? Hold on, you agreed? Wait, hold on.
I agree. I said it's back. I said go back and forth. So it's accountability on both sides.
No, but I was gonna say, but who said that the man should not have self-respect and self-worth and leave the woman who obviously was betraying him? Like no one, I don't think any person said that. I'm just saying. I'm pretty sure everyone agreed with that. It was the question was abandoning a child that you already love and are bonded to and connected to and been raising as yours because you thought it was yours for however many years. It's not.
But I think that was the part when
then
Deuce was
abandon
like,
that child. You think it's a self-respect to abandon that child?
No, I think that was the part when Deuce was like, you know what, F that kid. Let me just go ahead and exit out.
What Bernie Mac said, fuck them kids.
Williams said that, man. He's like, F them kids.
Right? Yes, he did. It's in the movie. He said, fuck them kids. He said, what about the kids? He said, fuck them kids. He said, and then Mike Evans was like, damn.
Bleep.
Oh, I finally cursed. My bad.
I said F. I was the good one. I said F.
My bad. Yo, so you know I ain't never cursed on him before. You know that's my bad.
Hold him accountable, Inky. Hold him accountable.
That's my bad.
Yeah,
I love you all. Love you all.
B Love, I appreciate her. She's new in the chat, so I hope she's a subscriber. Make sure you hit the all bell notification because it helps out. Group conversations every Tuesday. Anything random to be me because I have my bias again. Shout out to Pearly, to Andrew Tate, to all them ignorant red pillar guys out there, Rolo Tomasi, MLD, and Fresh and Fit. So that would be a conversation in the morning. So thank you. Shout out to LTTV, says hit the likes button, all that good stuff. Thank you. Angry Ginger says not only are these exceptions, but we are currently experiencing a paradigm shift when it comes to marriage and its dynamics. I agree. We had women in one way early in the stages of early, I say, changed over during the suffrage movement to the 1800s. It happens. But again, human first. There's some collective of women that want independence to the point of like, hey, they want to be career women. There's certain women say, hey, they want to be housewives. There's certain women that say, I witnessed myself that, hey, you know what? I am an independent woman. I make 100K, but guess what? I don't mind being the breadwinner for my man, but we got to learn how to coexist in that realm of the relationship. But there's other men that say, hey, you know what? It's not going to last that long. It's not going to last that long. And also, and that's fine too. They're right to their opinion. Shout out to Either Man. Either Man said, give money to the mother outside the child support. No men want to pay child support for a child that's not his. I agree. Nobody don't want to. A woman should serve him legal papers that is his father. I agree again. And last but not least, owner a business. I guess it was early in the conversation. Owner a business, hire yourself. Your wife. Oh, this is the conversation earlier. I think with Inky. Own a business. I guess if somebody have like the most money, when we're talking about, you said take the kids with you and all that stuff. So I guess the option is, hey, own a business. If you're owner of a business, hire you and yourself a wife, I guess a maid or something like that. Mm-hmm. So that'd be an option. So the kids still be at home. So again, I appreciate everybody for that.
No, he was saying no. What he is saying is own a business and then hire yourself and hire your wife. Make sure you're being paid exactly the same. That way, if you ever break up, you don't have to pay her anything because she's working and she makes exactly the same amount as you. So therefore, there's no way they could say that you as the man are making more and therefore owe her alimony or child support or anything because you both make the exact same amount. That's what he's talking about.
That would work, but there would be an exception to that, and that would be who would have the child the most, and that would be how it would be rated from that point. Mm-hmm. Who has the most parenting time?
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you, Great Pill, for having me up.
Oh, you appreciate Inky. I appreciate you coming on through. We're closing out, but I want to just give shout out to everybody because a lot of people came on through. So I want to give my shout out and flowers to them. Brother E said dope conversation. Yes, Brother E. I'm gonna make you the sponsor for next Tuesday, Brother E, because Petty's in the blood for next Tuesday. Mute your mic, sir. I hear something buzzing over. Who was that? Who was that coming through? Edie Man said, get a jar ready. Yes, I'm getting a jar ready because it is ridiculous. Sugar Bomb, first time coming on through, but I know she watches in the clouds a lot, so appreciate her. Anton, Chris, I know who that is. Fatty sent horse. I appreciate Fatty. So thank you for Fatty for doing that. April, I appreciate you, my birth month. I always shout out to her because that's my birth month. So thank you for coming on through. Sack Pause, I appreciate you. I apologize, I don't want to screw up your name. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Tell Fatty I salute him. Sugar Bum again. Brother Joey laughed because he already know. He didn't have to say anything. He's just like, yo, I messed up. Here, I'm gonna be a real man and hit you the Cash App. So any money sent to the Cash App will be going straight to Inky for a good cause. We'll explain that later. We're gonna have a whole pitch ready for you guys. So thank you for that. Who else? Marcus will bring you up, but we're closing out. Good sir. Brother Jumpy said, I want to be pet. Yes, you're gonna hear the conversation for Tuesday. That might be my opener. What else? Who else is here? Don Q. I never was here and we never saw you, Don Q. Appreciate you. Edie Man said, leave them kids alone. Who else do we have here from the Fatty Squad, from Team Fatty? Appreciate you. Sorry, said, when I hear the F-bomb on my chat the second time I'm out and will unsubscribe, I heard it enough on exactly. I heard it too much on panels. The conversations don't go nowhere, Sergeant. Don't go nowhere. I hear F this, F that, B this, S this, B that, F that. If that's the only, I learned this in high school. If that's the only words that come out your mouth, you can't have a conversation. You just don't need to talk. You just don't need to talk. So I get in once or two, but no, not if we trying to have a brand, not if we trying to have a real good conversation, not just that. And it's crazy. So appreciate you, E-Man. Yeah, tell them, get that Cash App ready. Because again, everything will be going straight to a donation for a good cause. It won't go straight here because I have my own money for the podcast with the mics, the StreamYard. That's the only thing I pay for. But will be dedicating any funds sent to Great Pill Podcast to a great cause that the Inky that we've been talked about before. So I will get a pitch ready for y'all guys so y'all know. So we'll have a long 2-minute conversation about it. Shout out to Big Bad Bull. Appreciate you. Who else in here? Appreciate you, Dino. Thank you for coming on through. Who else are we leaving out? All right, Great Pill, you got a few trolls in the chat, so be here. It's fine, man. I literally had when I did an interview of the reaction interview of Pearly Things to Nick Fuentes, I literally had over 34 people that was fans of Nick Fuentes and white supremacists rolling through. It's no different. Also, I've been in so many spaces. Shout out to Canadian spaces out there. If they come on through with nuclear bombs, I know they're coming with support because that's a space that support me. I support them. So shout out to Canadian spaces. So who else we got? Sergeant again said, Roger that, brother. Thank you. Who else? Also from Team Fatty. Thank you. And Stan. And Edeman Cigarette can answer my last question. All right, what last question with that, E? And then we're going to wrap it up and we're going to be out of here.
It says, if the man stays, should he be able to sleep with whoever he wants?
That would be agreement between him and her. Because again, feelings is going to be involved on both sides. Feelings going to be involved on both sides. So it got to be a conversation and agreement. And even then, sometimes it's going to be feelings on both sides. Because I dated somebody that literally said, hey, let's be friends with benefits. Some degree I caught feelings, but I couldn't disrespect her because again, it was a conversation. I kept to my lane, she kept to hers, and she moved on, got engaged, got married. I didn't sit there like, yeah, let me find the wedding. No, I didn't do all that. Like, look, it was good while it lasted. That was it. But if in the household, got to have a conversation. Some marriages actually still legally married by contract, one in one room, one in the other room, on separate houses, and they go do their thing.
Yeah, my friend's parents literally stayed together from the time she was like a child until she was done high school. Like I remember, like she was finishing high school, about to go to college. She was valedictorian of her school. She was also valedictorian of middle school, also, and like sobbing hysterically. She had the best parents, and their parents had the best relationship. Rich people, but like the way that they talked to each other, they were so cool, and they slept in the same bed and everything. But they had not been together for over a decade. And they were actually even dating other people, and they retired to their bed at night and talk about their other relationships and talk about their kids. And they were like the best of friends, but they were not together. I mean, you can cohabitate. Yeah.
It got to be a conversation. Got to be on that maturity level. Marcus, what's your final thoughts, good sir? And we'll leave it out with that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, good sir.
Yeah, no, yeah, this is an interesting topic. So, I'm expecting you had it on a Tuesday night or else over here on the West Coast. Appreciate you. Shout out to Rudy. Shout out to Deuce. And everybody else who's on the panel earlier.
Yeah, he finally here now. He actually answered things, so he's here now. I ain't gonna deny him a link. I ain't gonna deny him a link. He asked for it. I was like, yo, finally, okay, but
defend yourself, Deuce.
Yeah.
No, this is just one of those things that's like an uncomfortable but yet realistic conversation. It's supposed to have honest, real answers. You may not like the answers that some of these people give, but it's a conversation that I think can relate to certain people in certain situations. It's crazy because like I'm listening to the radio stations when I'm like bumping the music and stuff, whatever, and I'm listening to some of these conversations that I only thought that we'd have in these podcasts or these streams in YouTube or in these certain spaces, but it's come into a mainstream where it's hitting more relevancy than people thought. So I just appreciate the convo and the fact that there's people right now going through a divorce and going to prison and jail for it, and going through that anguish. It's crazy. So that's about it. And appreciate it. And make sure you look at your cash apps too.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I appreciate that, man, because I know you're that type of guy. You don't really invest in nothing unless you know there's something to invest into. So it really means a lot for me. But I'm going to keep it petty for next Tuesday. So Don Teasy will be the main advocate, and I will make an example because they know I don't play that. I don't go to nobody else's house. I take my shoes off when I go to people's houses. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So with that being said, man, I appreciate everybody for coming on through. You're more than welcome. Hit the subscribe button. It helps out. Every Tuesday we have group conversations. We're working on the second one for the week for another group conversation. It's going to be like sex expectations, everything about sex relationships, sex topics, all that good stuff. So, we're going to have that conversation. So, also, I'm working on one for Tuesday. I'm just going to give a friendly reminder to Ruby because I know we said it was going to be last week, but if the person actually agreed to it for Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central, that's what we're going to shoot for. So I'm not going to tell nobody that's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, it don't, but I'm just going to make sure Ruby get the
But is it going to be tomorrow, Wednesday?
Yeah, because last week
okay.
he said it wasn't going to happen. So this Wednesday is this next week. So reached out, just waiting for the response. If it doesn't happen, it's fine. And I'll just pretty much go to the normal, just me ranting about and showing receipts on Andrew Tate, Pearly Things, MLD, Rolo Tomasi, and those guys, because those ones I have a disdain for because they are a toxic influence in this space. Everything else, again, shout out to Fatty for bringing everybody over just for the support. I appreciate you. Definitely hit the like buttons and all that good stuff. For everybody out there, yeah, enjoy the conversation. Hear the Great Pill Podcast. Everything's not black and white. There's gray in the middle. We have disagreements. We have controversy here, but guess what? We don't do. We don't argue, spit, and have beef with one another. You know what I'm saying? Because we did, Marks wouldn't be here. If I did, Deuce wouldn't be here. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to disagree. So with that note, catch y'all guys later.
Cheers.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.